Yo, what is up, guys? Hello, Mary. Hello, Mandy. And hello, CEO.
Happy Saturday.
Hello.
Happy April Fool's Day.
Oh, it is April Fool's. We got your CEO on panel. April Fool's. No, he's really here. Can you guys believe it? I can't believe it. Who do we have up in chat here today? We've got Larry NC. Hello, Larry. Look at his kitty. It looks pregnant. Hey, Sanner. We got HJ. She says, what? All right, you guys, we're going to start out with a little rewind just as a refresher because it has been, almost 5 years now?
Yeah.
Is this year the 5th year?
It is.
Holy tamale.
That's crazy, isn't it?
It really is. So that means that the girls would be not 10. Bella would be going on 10 and Cece would be 7, going on 8. Is that right?
Or 8, 9.
Wow.
Those poor kids.
So sad. So sad.
Well, and they'd have a little boy too.
Right?
Yeah,
Nico would be 5. He'd be turning 5 this year.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable.
Wow. It's really sad. Like Nico should be going to Primrose with his sisters, you know?
Yep, starting kindergarten.
Crazy to think about. But let's go ahead and play this and then we will reconvene.
The most important thing, like, I'm not sure, I'll just wait for you to ask questions, but like, it's, I want them wherever they're at. Like, I have no inclination of where they're at right now. Like, I've exhausted like every friend that I know of and every friend that I have.
If you want me to cut in, just tell me to pause it.
I didn't know about, and it's just like, it's vanished. Like, she's not, like, when I got home yesterday, it was like a ghost town. Like, she wasn't here. Kids weren't here. I have no idea like where they went. And it's just earth shattering. I don't feel like this is even real right now. It's like a nightmare that I just can't wake up from.
Chris, when did you learn that they weren't here?
Like, I had texted her a few times, called her, I didn't get a response, which that was a little off. And then her friend Nicole showed up about a little afternoon. I could see it on the doorbell camera. And I was like, hey, what's going on? She's like, I can't get a hold of Shannan. And that's when I was just like, all right, something's not right. If she's not answering the door, she said the car was here. It's like, I got to go home.
Oops. Is there an echo? I'm sorry, I was muted. I want to make sure that everybody can hear because I saw that Gina said there was an echo. Or does the sound okay in the audience, that is?
An echo where? Us or on the video?
Yeah, like, I don't know if the streamers are hearing an echo.
I think I did hear one a while ago, but I think it got fixed, but I'm not sure.
Okay. No echo? Thank you, Emery. All right. Carry on. But no inclination. No inclination. Mm-hmm. And, you know, I got to admit, when I watched this the first time, you guys can tell me what you thought. I know most people thought, oh, God, he is so guilty of something. But I honestly naively believed that he could be telling the truth. Just because of how normal he looked. Just seeing like this typical suburban dad. My first thought, I didn't think too much into it. And now this is 5 years before, you know, I was just a true crime, you know, watching ID channel. Now we've gotten so much deeper with cases and seeing case after case after case of, you know, men who kill their wives. I would think differently now, but then I was like, there's no way this dude could have killed his kids. What did you guys think?
I thought he was guilty just because of how calm he was. Like, he wasn't upset. There was no emotion in his face or anything. And the fact that he also laughs during this interview when he's asked a question. He's like, oh, I just want them to come back. Like,
Yeah, I
seriously.
think I agree too. You know, when I first watched this, it was he seemed innocent. You know, concerned but not overly concerned, like any normal guy would be. I think he didn't really have information to. Or we seemingly didn't have information to make him think that they were missing, only that they just weren't there yet.
And not asking for them to come back or anything like that either. Like he said that he wants them to walk through the door and stuff, but it didn't seem like it was genuine, like panic. I don't know where my family is, and I just want some answers. He kind of refrained from saying those kind of things.
Yeah, I mean, I thought the same thing, that he didn't seem overly concerned, but I kind of at the time thought, okay, well, maybe they had a fight and maybe she took off and like wanted him to worry about where they were, kind of like a manipulation type thing.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I thought. And I thought, he's not that concerned because maybe this has happened before. Like
Yeah.
maybe she's left mad. And that's why he's so nonchalant. Like, I just want him back. Like she's listening, just come home.
Yeah.
So
like, just
that's
stop
where I was
listening.
at. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And because
There
it's
was
so
something
hard to
off,
fathom.
There was always something off for me. I mean, I couldn't
Really?
put my finger on it, and I always tried to give the benefit of the doubt. So I would have said he was innocent to begin with. It wasn't until we found out about the affair, and once we found out about the affair, then I was able to see him in a different light.
Yes.
Almost like he was putting on a show, because he was such a good dad and all. So I really wanted him to not be responsible.
Mhm.
But I think he's, his body language and his voice and everything is totally sus. And
Yeah, I guess I'm like you, Mary. I always want to give everybody the benefit of the doubt. And when you see this guy and then you go to, immediately all of us went to Facebook to look at their social media. And lo and behold, we have this like library of their lives. And I know I sat there just one after the other. And, he always had Cece on his hip. He always was, taking care of Bella. He was always tending to those kids while she was doing her videos. But I have a totally different way I'm looking at this now. But let's get on with it so we can get to our main thing, because really that's what made me think, was just hearing someone say it in a different way, maybe, is what kind of made it resonate for me.
Mm-hmm.
And we got here, got inside, and nobody was here.
It's echoing now.
yep, I hear it too.
Yeah.
So now it's echoing, but it wasn't before?
Yeah. Mm-mm.
So it's only
Yeah, it
when
was
it's
fine before.
playing.
That's so weird, because I didn't do anything differently.
I'm checking my stuff to make sure it's not me.
No, if you're both hearing it, it's
No, I
not.
can hear it.
Okay.
So you're hearing him like double?
Yeah.
The video double? Okay.
Yeah.
Just give me 1 second. I got to adjust something.
I thought it might have been me.
I was going to say, CEO. I knew you'd have something to say about that. I'm not echoing though, am I? It's just the video.
Mm-hmm.
Weird. Okay.
It's got to be something to do with Onion, though. Gotta be.
It's got to be
Of
her
course.
fault.
Yeah, it's me. Just blame me.
It's literally always England's fault. Okay. Let's
Mhm. Just
see.
call me the incompetent potato.
The incompetent onion. Okay. Tell me now, is there an echo?
Yeah, because like Bella
Nope.
was going to start kindergarten
Can you hear it?
next month.
Yeah, there's no echo.
And they were just getting ready to start back again.
And so what kind of, so your friend Nicole kind of tipped you off at something.
Yeah, because like she was here at the front door, and that's when I kind of knew, okay, like if she's not answering anybody else either.
Did you hear him
it's
swallow?
like her, because
I literally heard the
she works at
swallow.
direct sales business.
And interesting that
her-
he's rocking at the
That's
same
what
time.
she does.
Mm-hmm.
He
And
is
for her not
nervous.
to respond to any of her people that, I mean, if she doesn't respond to me, that's fine. I mean, like, she's busy, she's got stuff going on, but not to respond to her people, though, that was not like her.
Chris, you've got a beautiful family, you know, and it looks like you all love each other very much. What went through your mind the minute kind of
Blinking?
Like, I was trying to get home as fast as I can. I was blowing through stoplights. I was blowing through everything, just trying to get home as fast as I can, because none of this made sense.
No, you weren't.
Which we know was a lie, because
Yeah,
it took him
complete.
forever to get home. Nikki was
Uh-huh.
like, where is he? Like, her and that boy were like climbing the walls waiting for him to get home.
Yep. And you can see, like, knowing that now, you can see his whole body language change. He starts blinking really fast. He starts laughing.
Yep. And
you
you know
see
what?
his biceps, how they're pulled in really tight, and he only moves
He's very
from his elbows down. He's completely protecting all the like vital organs.
Yep.
So is he like self-soothing himself, like to get through this interview?
Well, that's the rocking, but
that's the rocking
and the hugging himself.
Yes, that's like you do that, and you tend to crane your neck a little bit to make it so that your neck isn't your jugular isn't. It's just evolutionary stuff. You can't help it.
Did they do those guys that do the body language and behavioral
the behavior panel?
Do one on him?
I think they did. I think there is one.
They must have.
There is one out there on Watts.
Yeah, there is. I watched it.
You know, just looking back though, I mean, I look at this as like a learning experience. You know, all the mistakes that I personally made when analyzing this case from the get-go. I look back and I feel so naive. I feel so naive about a lot of things that I'm learning about, but you know, I look back and I think, gosh, I totally would handle and think so differently now. Just right now, what I've learned is, like, looking at his face right now, his mouth is turned upwards. And if your kids are missing, screw the wife. If your kids are missing, your mouth is not going to be turned upwards. You physically, if you were feeling it, your mouth would not physically be able to do that. You know what I'm saying?
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. And he has a furrow in his brow. He doesn't have that concerned.
There's no like creases. Yeah. I just think it's fascinating what I've taken away from the last 5 years of following other cases, just revisiting this one. I think it's pretty cool. And I think that, on the other hand, it's really sad that Shannan's family had to go through hell for people to have quote unquote learning experiences. That's not right either, you know? So.
And if you watch,
where did she go?
Oops. Sorry, go ahead, Potato.
If you watch him, like, when he's being asked questions and things as well, he sucks his lips in. And that's like saying, I've got things that I don't want to let come out. Like, he's holding stuff back.
Yep.
Like, once I got here, it was like, all right, who can I call? Who do I know that she could be with right now? If she went to a friend's house, where could she be staying? And we went through everybody. I mean, just everything in my contact list and her friend's contact list. And
which is so stupid, because her friend that she talked to the most was the one that was there looking for her ass. So, like, knowing that now, you look at him and you go, dude, really? You think they haven't talked to Nicole Atkinson?
Everyone needs a friend like that, girl.
For real.
Yeah. But what's he even talking about? Going through friends lists and stuff. It wasn't, he didn't contact anyone. He didn't reach out and say, like, what's going on. It was people contacting him.
Convincing himself that he did that, right? Maybe he reached out to the Thayers. If maybe he reached out to anyone, it would be the Thayers. Because he was tight with the dude, the guy.
Yeah.
When is this from?
They haven't heard from her.
This interview?
Yeah.
This was the day before his arrest. So this would have been Tuesday, the 14th, right?
And remind
Potato,
me, how long,
we know this.
How long was it between the murders and his arrest? You know,
3 days.
Oh my Lord! I don't remember being.
He committed the murders on Sunday, early Monday morning, and then he was in the clinker late Wednesday night, I think, like 11 p.m.
And this is right before that.
This is the day before that.
Tuesday.
Okay.
He did 2 interviews in front of the house this day. Like, this is kind of the pre-interview where he's getting warmed up, but they videoed him. Then he did the actual interview where he's like really putting on his act when they get up by the house. This is the pre where he's supposed to be comfortable or getting comfortable.
I'm just hoping right now that she's somewhere safe, and maybe she's there. But
She's
right
there.
now, it's
She's
like,
there.
if she's vanished, like, I want her back so bad. I want those kids back.
Oh, that
Vanished.
Mm.
The shoulder shrug, by
It's
the way.
that laugh.
Ew. And when he says, I want those kids back so bad.
Yeah.
Look at, he's smiling. He doesn't want them back.
Not at all.
No, he thinks he's going to get away with it. He thinks he's going to move past this and enjoy his life. That's what I really believe he's thinking at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I hate to say this, but I think that there was a plan. I'm not a plan, like, but I think that he had thought about getting rid of Shannan. I don't think, I used to think it was he snapped. I used to think, oh my God, when she said you'll never see these kids again, he loved those effing kids so much that it made him snap. No, he didn't. If he loved those kids so much, they'd be alive. How stupid of me to think that.
Yeah.
You know,
I don't think he snapped.
You've never felt that way?
No, because he said he said that he was thinking the night before, like when he tucked the kids into bed, that was going to be the last time that he tucked them in and he put on their rain machines and stuff. So I think he'd been thinking about it like that weekend. I think it's possible that he was given an ultimatum, like it's either your family or it's me. Not meaning like get rid of your family.
But yeah, I'm not going to sit
he
here
didn't
on
really
the
know
sideline.
what else to do. Yeah.
And
Like
who
she'd
would want,
waited long enough.
in her defense, I mean, it's not the best idea, obviously. He lied and said he was, in the process of a divorce. So she didn't know that, Shannan was none the wiser to this split. And he's like, I don't know. I used to blame her so much more and think, she would have accepted the kids. But I don't think he wanted that life. I think he got a taste of, oh my God, I never had a girlfriend when I was in my 20s. And this is fun. Like, we can go to the sand dunes and we can do this and we can do that. And we can go whenever we want. Because
we can have privacy. We can have privacy.
Yep.
Nobody's tired. Everyone's excited. There's no real life day-to-day issue.
Monotony.
100%, Mandy. 100%, which is why most of the time, if you start with an affair, you don't end up together in the long run.
Right.
Because you're not really having a relationship.
It's really those
you're
hormones
escaping.
that feel good, right? It's escaping from whatever is wrong in your marriage and then getting those feel good hormones. But those all fade away too. Because if they do stay together, it doesn't typically last. Right.
Well, and then it turns into you've already established a pattern of not trusting. So
jealousy
in the back of your mind, you've been the other woman. So then, what's going to stop this guy who has no regard for anyone's feelings but his own?
Right.
What's going to stop him from moving on to the next?
Right. Like, let's say they never found Shannan and the girls and they were just still missing. It was unsolved. And him and Nikki eventually moved on with a life. And let's say he switched jobs and all of a sudden she couldn't keep tabs on him anymore. And he was at another job and she didn't know what he was doing. You're right. It would be a total trust issue. 100%.
Yeah. I don't think he would have stayed with Nikki, though.
Nikki?
No, because I think this is all about underlying control for Chris. I think that he liked the fact that Shannan needed him. And when she got healthier and started to promote herself and didn't need him for everything, I think he got jealous and insecure. And that's kind of what started this. I think if she had been needy enough that he could be meeting her needs and feel like he was doing this, and it would make him feel like the hero and whatnot.
Okay, so Mary, what makes you, like, why do you think he is that way? Why do you think that he desires that control, or that, is there a lack of something like in his childhood, Was there something that he was seeking, or is it just his DNA? Like how do you piece that?
So to be very careful here, because we don't, I've never talked to Chris, and I would have to have multiple hours of conversations with him before I could even get close to this. But just watching it, and for better or worse, we have had a view of the family dynamics, both of them. We've had a view of how Chris reacts under stress because of the trial, and we've seen Nikki too in the media and whatnot. So we have a lot of information, but it's all assuming, because I don't know what's going on in their heads.
Right.
However, if I were to say, hey, what do I think is going on? I think it's probably a personality disorder of some kind. And I think my personal belief is that that's a nature-nurture thing. I don't think that it's a one or the other. He seems very narcissistic to me. And, but I think he wants to be a good person. So I think he's aware of his narcissism. So which is why he's such a good father.
Yeah.
Which is why but I think if you were to go into his brain and say, hey, why are you doing this? That he would be doing it because his parents thought he was a good father if he did it in front of them, or Shannan, or that it wasn't.
He did what he thought he was supposed to do rather than feeling it and just doing it.
Correct. It's a role. Mm-hmm. Yep.
So that's why he would look up and Google, how do you tell someone you love them?
Yeah.
Correct. Because I mean, it potentially.
Yeah, like a 40-year-old man
have those feelings.
Man would know, like, if you feel that, you would know how to say it because it would be natural.
You would think so if you were married with multiple children.
God, so do you think he never really had pure emotion towards the children as well? Like, do you think that's across the board with his relationships?
Mm-hmm, I think so. I mean, he murdered them and had absolutely no remorse afterwards.
I mean, in no regard for how he disposed of them. not that you're supposed to have regard, but I mean, to have any kind of feeling. I mean, how could you ever? I mean, I can't even fathom it, let alone.
Or have regard for his parents at this point. I mean, like, even that's a thing. He's still keeping secrets. He still could let his parents free of some of their, I believe, I don't know. But
I know he could.
He's still holding on to things that he could give his parents that maybe might help them process this. However, I don't believe that that's in his nature to think about. And I don't think it's purposeful. I really don't. I think that it's just kind of like an ego-driven, you just don't think about other people.
You don't think about them needing an explanation. You don't really.
Correct.
Because it seems like he doesn't understand. Like, like I've talked to his mom in the past and she's been like, he just says, I did it, and that's just it. And that's just, let it go. Like, that's just it. Just accept that.
Yeah.
And how can she just accept that one sentence is her thing. I want to know what happened. Why did, if you're saying you did this, why did you do this? Why did you do this to your kids? So there's these unanswered questions that literally, I can talk to his mother on the phone and I've never met her in person, but I can hear her pain. I can hear it in her voice. And this man talks to her like probably every day. I don't know how often he can call, but I'm sure, as often as he can. And I just think to myself, how do you not hear that in your mother's voice and think that you might owe her that? Like, that is the most selfish thing I've ever witnessed.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. But the reality is, if it's a personality disorder, if he's borderline personality disorder or narcissistic personality disorder, he's not doing it to be mean necessarily. He hasn't given a thought to how his mom's feeling.
Right. So there's a total disconnect.
Mm-hmm.
She's wanting one thing, that she's wanting something he's not capable of giving.
Mm-hmm.
And for those of us, for those of us who don't think like that, it's trying to comprehend the being cold, having no emotion,
understanding
literally having the ability to take the life out of your children, the thing that you are supposed to defend
Mm-hmm.
to the ends of the earth. Yeah, he appeared to be a great dad on Facebook, you know, but was it more of just a routine? This is what I'm supposed to do. Okay, we wear the Halloween costumes. She wants to take a picture, post it. Here's the happy family. When he's so numb, he's just going through the motions.
And you know what's wild? I agree with you, Mandy. And you know what's wild is that I think about like the family get-togethers where you say like, yeah, he appeared to be a good dad, and like Mary said, he knew how to act. He knew, you know, what a good dad did because he had one. Okay, he had one. He had a great example for a father and a mother. In my opinion, I don't think they're bad people at all. I think that people like Chris Watts can become adults and make decisions that don't reflect their parents' parenting.
Yeah,
I 100%
absolutely.
agree. And
I
when
mean,
someone
there's
is masking like this,
and there's, well, hold on, let me get this one thought out. They're spoiled kids, but they don't go on to do things like this. You know, go ahead, Mary.
yes. I don't remember what I was going to say.
I'm sorry.
I'm telling you.
That's why I didn't stop.
I'm Mandy says, I'm sorry I cut you off. And I'm going, no worries. I was apologizing.
I do this.
Telling her not to worry. And I forgot.
Well, if you remember, just let me know.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, I just feel for them. I really do. And I feel like you make a lot of sense. Like just saying about that disconnect. And it's really sad and unfortunate because like his mother and him are never going to be able to, you know, have some kind of therapy session where someone works that out for them and she can have that peace. You know, he's going to stick to his story and he's probably going to get more hard the longer he's in prison. You know, he's not going to get any more open or honest behind bars, I wouldn't think.
Yeah. Well, look how he is in prison as well. Like he's got his own life in there. He's quite happy. He's comfortable. And he'll be thinking, well, if I'm happy and comfortable, then everybody else should be as well. Like just move on, live your life.
Yeah. And you know what I think
ego driven.
It's so
like
crass.
self-censored, but not. Yeah. Yes, it is. It's just like, it's very teenager, undeveloped thought process of nobody else matters. It's just me and my world.
Yeah. It's so it's fascinating in a way, you know.
That frontal lobe just didn't get developed.
Right. I mean, was he kind of in that like immature, like I want to be a NASCAR driver? Like that's a pretty like high dream.
Well, that's a risk. Yeah, and that's risk-based. That's the other thing. Is people who are risk-based, you know, you need to kind of look under why they're trying to feed that need. So if he wanted to be a race car driver, he wanted to, I mean, things that would give you an adrenaline rush, there's a reason that potentially. And I would imagine that his parents looking back now would say, well, yes, this or that, but I would think, and I could be wrong, but I would think that a lot of this was going on inside Chris's head and it looked one way and people didn't really understand his thought process.
Right.
So his parents might have thought he was just totally fine.
Of course. And they thought he was ambitious for wanting to go to NASCAR tech. Right. So the sad part is, where's Chris now? He's in prison. And guess what? They're still paying for NASCAR tech school.
Yeah, that's so sad.
So, I mean, that's just a really like stark example to me. You know, he had an idea, he had a goal, and they supported him. They were all about it. Let's get a loan and let's put Chris in that school because he wants to be successful. And I don't think you can fault them. I just think that I don't see any signs of them, you know, having any kind of weird family like life per se. You know, they had a boy and a girl, they had a son and a daughter. There's the mom and the dad. They live in, you know, rural North Carolina. You know, mom stays home, dad works. I mean, you don't get any more typical American than that. It's crazy.
Yeah. I think his ego does have a lot to do with everything that happened, though. Like his NASCAR stuff, he thought he could do that. He was supported to do that, and then the whole relationship with NK. I mean, how did that start? NK was chasing him. Like she was interested in him. He'd got all buff and stuff. He'd lost a lot of weight and he was fit. He was working out, and suddenly someone was interested in him. He wasn't having to chase anyone like he did with Shannan. She was going after him.
Well, right.
And
And
I
let's
think
remember. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was just going to say, I think that was really the reason why he was so into all of that, is because she was interested in everything that he was interested in, and it fed into his ego. Because after the murders as well, he was more concerned about what everyone else was going to think about him than he was about what had actually happened.
Mm-hmm.
Correct.
Like you said
I
about
agree.
his co-workers, he was like, or even with her friends, when her friends were contacting him and saying like, where is she, what's happened, and he was saying, I just don't want you to think badly of me. And they're like, I don't care about you right now, I just want to know where they are.
Right. This isn't about you or our perception of you.
Yeah, but he had to get it in there. I don't want you to think bad of me. And then he didn't want his co-workers to think he was a monster. It was
But
all about
looking
him.
back, I think you're spot on about his ego and stuff. But do you think that he had that big ego when he was chubby Chris and he met Shannan who needed him? I don't think he had that ego then, because he never had a freaking girlfriend before Shannan.
No, so he was insecure about himself. I think he probably still did have an ego, but in different ways. I mean, maybe not so much to do with how he
maybe like a
looked.
self-righteous, like I can't do anything wrong type.
Like I'm the best.
Yes, correct.
NASCAR or whatever. And then it filters into, like, he got himself looking good and stuff, so it filters into that. Suddenly people are interested in how he looks, and then that takes over everything. It took over his whole family.
What do you think came first, the chicken or the egg? Did the affair make him want to get in shape, or did Shannan's business and their lifestyle make him lose some weight? Then he felt good and he started flirting around at work.
Yeah.
You think it went like that?
He got into shape with the Thrive and stuff, and then because NK only started emailing him in June, apparently. I mean, maybe they met before that.
Which
who
is
really knows?
right, and that's why I'm saying, could it have been going on longer, and that was why the weight loss with him happened, and we just don't realize that. I don't know. I'm just wondering, could it have went both, another way with the weight loss? Because the weight loss is a huge red flag. You're married to Chunky Charlie, and all of a sudden Chunky Charlie's going to the gym after work.
Yeah.
You might want to look at Chunky Charlie's phone or something, because something's up. Unless you're doing it together. If it's a thing you do together as a couple and you're like, dude, we got to get in shape, that's different.
Right. Which is what I think it probably was to start with, because Shannan was doing that as well, and it was her business, so maybe that
and
kind
she
of
lost weight. She was she had put on weight after the baby, and she lost that baby weight, and she was looking really good.
Yeah.
And he was looking really good.
They'd done together.
And I think that possibly that it was the fact that Shannan got healthier and didn't need him so much that made him go find someone, and like what you said, Tato, about and Kay liking that, doing the sand dune stuff and whatnot. So it was hitting that whatever endorphins or oxytocin or whatever he was looking for, it was hitting that for him. Whereas Shannan didn't need him anymore, and so now she's just telling him what to do, and he doesn't like that.
Right.
And so now she becomes the problem rather than the princess he's saving.
But
so
I
have
to disagree there with that on Shannan, because I feel like what we know about Shannan prior to Chris is that was her personality. She was a go-getter. She was independent. She was driven, and whatever that she put.
She met him when she was sick. There was like a 2 or 3 year period.
She met him at a lull. Yeah, you're right. That's why she responded to the message. She was weak. Because before she didn't respond, remember? She was like, I deleted that shit. And then he caught her at a weak moment. And that's what these motherfuckers do too.
Yep.
People like him, they wait around. They'll wait around. They'll linger. They'll linger up in your DMs until that weak moment. They might see a Facebook post where you say, God, I feel like shit today. Or, she made a lot of emotional posts on Facebook. He could have waited for the moment she made a post like that and hit her up and thought she's at a weak moment. But I never took him as being so bright and articulate. I always thought he was like a doofus. And now I'm seeing a different Chris. And it's quite shocking to me.
Did you fall under the spell?
I did. I was manipulated by him. Yep. And what does that say about me? And what I noticed in people. You know what I mean? It makes you like second guess, like, wow, you really pick up on a lot of stuff when you pay attention to the body language and like what's supposed to be there and what's not. If you're clueless, you're not gonna, you could be duped easily by these people. Cause I think Shannan was a bright woman, very smart, probably one of the best marketers I've seen, and she could sell you anything. And I see her as being the more articulate, bright, planner. But now that we're like reanalyzing it and you think about her business, how it was not really doing as well as it was, perceived to be, that we thought, oh, she was being conniving by keeping the financial, ruins to herself, but maybe in essence, she was not wanting to be shamed for failing.
Yeah.
Or
that's
was
a huge thing.
afraid. Yeah. Afraid to say, this isn't working out quite as well as, they told me it was going to, and this is the position we're in.
Yeah.
Maybe
look where she came from.
Maybe she in the back of her mind wanted out too, but, and
didn't see a way.
It didn't see a way. She keeps getting, she's been pregnant for like the last how many years of her life, pregnant again. She probably felt trapped.
It's hard. I got divorced when I had 3 kids under the age of 15, and it's scary.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Especially when they're little like that, and you're used to sending them to Primrose School, and you want to be able to keep, you don't want the kids, because you think in your mind as a mom, oh my God, if I have to pull them out of their school, they're going to be pulled away from their little friends, and then they're going to be upset. And, it's just everything comes at you. And I cannot imagine being 15 weeks along and have that happen. I went through it. My first husband cheated. I had 3 little ones, and I had to pick it all up. You don't have a choice. But I can't imagine being pregnant, because I would be a mess.
I can.
Especially 15 weeks. 15 weeks, like that's the grossest part, isn't it? For me it was, you're sick, you're tired, you're not fat, like pregnant fat, but you're
swelling up. Yeah.
Right. Everyone thinks you just like gained 40 pounds for no reason.
And I'm sure she wanted to just freaking sit down and put her feet up, but she had to keep this MLM going. You can't stop. It's like YouTube. It's like a constant sprint. If you stop selling products.
Someone
knows if he was like,
sorry, go ahead, Mary.
I was just going to say, who knows what was going on behind the scenes? So, for example, we know that Shannan had a really good start and then ran into some challenges money-wise. And I think maybe had to foreclose on her first house, maybe. But she owned her first house at like, I don't even know, young. And I think that maybe, oh my God, I just forgot what I was going to say. Unbelievable.
It's okay. I do it all the time. It's all right.
Oh man.
I was going to say,
you don't know if he was shaming her. If there was a conversation going on about you're not keeping it up, or we put all our money into Thrive, and so I wonder if the Facebook stuff was more keeping up with the Joneses and MLM stuff.
For sure. It was all, I think it was all a show.
That's exactly what I was going to say. there's a comment on here that says from Lynn. She said Shannan rang hit ragged. She choreographed their lives and directed him in his role all for live stream. He just had to show up, stand in. He wasn't a good dad, just a carefully curated image of such, which I think that's an excellent point. Like,
I think so too. I mean, if you watch the videos, he looks like the main caregiver. He looks like the doting father. Like as they grew up, I would have pictured them going to daddy-daughter dances. I would picture him being very close to his daughters. But I think that with daughters, I think that guys like him can have that disconnect because they're daughters. I think he would have flipped the F out having a boy. I don't think he would have known what to do with a boy. Do you think that's what freaked him out when they found out they were having a boy? Because I think it's easy to be around little, like if you're like him, you can fake like with little girls, whatever. Oh, they throw chicken nuggets at me. But how can you raise a boy like that? How can you be a man and raise a son throwing chicken nuggets at you? You can't. You can't have your son throwing chicken nuggets at you.
I also think as well, like from experience, people can seem like they have good relationship with their children, but it's not real because at any point they could just walk out of their lives and never come back. And I think that's kind of how he was.
But don't
he
you
looked
think
like a
that
good
men
dad,
in general, I think men in general, and this is where CEO, if he's still here, he can chime in because I think men in general have an easier time shutting that off and walking away. They don't, if they don't have that emotional bond like women do, like moms, all the time, so it's easier for them to get divorced and walk away from the whole situation and start a whole nother situation over here.
Start a new family, a new life.
But we can't do that as mothers because we have children that we're still raising. We can't start another over here.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, we can, but it's not in our best interest. And it doesn't really flow.
No, it definitely doesn't flow. Definitely does not flow. No.
And I don't think those two little girls would have flowed into what he was picturing his life with Nikki to be like.
Nope.
I don't know a whole lot about her. Did she appear like maternal? Did she want kids in the future?
I would have to say not maternal. I would have to say she's late 20s. She's wanting to have fun. She likes to go, they went sand dune surfing. They went to the Ford Mustang Museum. They did all these things. Those don't really fit in with kids. And from what I learned, she was the one saying to him, like, oh, we could bring your kids here. Like, but I don't think that was the fun he had in mind because I think when the kids were around, he was caregiver. It wasn't fun for him. Like when you go to birthday parties, when you're a mom and you're like chasing around a 2-year-old all day, you don't leave that party going, man, that was a fun day. You're like, oh my God, I'm so fucking tired.
No, you get the invitation out of their backpack and you're like, oh, no.
Yes. And then if your husband has to work and you have to take the other little ones, you're like, oh my God. And then you're chasing them around. And then plus, they had these allergies. So he had to make sure they weren't getting into, this or that, or I'm sure it was annoying. Okay. And I'm not saying the kids were annoying, but in his mind, I think the dynamics were so much that he was a caregiver because her job was demanding. It didn't stop at 5:00 when he got home. And I know that feeling because I do YouTube and like my husband has like a, set schedule. I don't, something can happen at 8:00 at night and I'm like, oh, I'm going to go live, So I get where, her job would be, a little more demanding. And when he got home from working out in the oil fields and being caregiver and giving baths and getting ready for bed and story time and whatever he did, I don't know if he did that because he enjoyed it or if he did it because he had to.
He
And if you
has to.
and when you have to, it builds resentment.
100%.
Which is why he could live this carefree sand surfing life with this woman who doesn't have any kids.
Yeah. And when Nikki said,
why would he want to bring the kids around? He has to
right.
deal with them.
And when she was the one that said, you know, I suggested, you know, hey, we could bring your kids camping. And, you know, she was the one talking about that. It wasn't him saying, oh, you know, we could. I feel like total disconnect with him with those kids.
Yeah.
Not Nikki, not Shannan, him. And I think that Shannan was probably wondering, how can you do this? Like, how I'm pregnant. We're about to have another baby, your son, and we have 2 daughters together. And you want to just end it? Mm-hmm. And she was trying every which way to reconcile, to try to get him to get his feelings out. And that letter she wrote him was so detailed, so emotional. And all she wanted was a letter back. She didn't get one. He wouldn't know how to write a letter like that. Do you think?
Well, think about what he said as well about when he was spending time with NK. He was at her house the whole time, the whole 6 weeks that she was away.
The whole time.
He was over there, and he said he wasn't even thinking about his family because he wasn't in his home, like seeing their pictures and things and around things that were theirs. So he wasn't thinking about them. It's like out of sight, out of mind.
Yeah, and you know what the craziest thing is, Mary? Mary, you know what the craziest thing is? You're going to get a kick out of this if you don't already know. The big thing was that Chris Watts had to be on the spectrum. That's why he did this. And that is what his biggest supporters came to the tubes and went on and on and on about. And I think it's because they just couldn't wrap their brain around him doing it for any other reason other than he had to be on the spectrum. So that says to me, oh, people that are on the spectrum are going to kill. I've never heard of someone on the spectrum being violent and killing.
Like, no, you're just an asshole.
Like, right.
An asshole. You're dead inside. Like, don't bring people with legitimate disabilities.
But isn't it crazy the lengths that we will go to try to understand someone who does something so horrific? We'll like think of the most outlandish things instead of the most obvious.
Think about, because there is a connection with people that are in the spectrum and some of the mannerisms of
like
these criminals.
Like the emotional, like disconnect.
Right. Think about that community that has the legitimate, you know, medically diagnosed learning disabilities, all that. They're getting categorized with these people that are out offing, annihilating their families.
And that's what I don't like.
No, and it's also a lack of understanding about things like empathy. I think that's where people go, is that, you know, he doesn't seem like he has any empathy, so they relate it to being on the spectrum. But people on the spectrum do have empathy. They just don't show it in the same way as anyone else or everyone else. So
they still feel
it's like internalized. They feel it, but so people think, they just assume, well, you're not empathetic, but they really are. Sometimes they feel things really deeply,
more
they
so
don't process it in the same way, so they can't express it the same way.
Well, I think that's a really good point. That's a good point to drive home, Potato, because I don't think a lot of people understand that. I think that's a big stigma with autism, is that autistic people are emotionless.
Yeah,
you know,
it's not true at all.
Yeah, Mary, you have good insight in that, don't you? I feel like
I have some experience, some personal, some professional, some, you know, some family, some, you know, it's we could do hours and hours on this, especially people who are on the spectrum and are really good at masking, which means they seem normal, but it takes them so much.
And there's different levels, right? I mean, there's like different, But I mean, I don't know too much about it. I don't know too much about it, but I know that I've never heard of a serial killer or a murderer being, oh, he was autistic. Like, what? Nope. It's kind of like saying, oh, he was gay. It's like, what? What? It's the same, like, kind of ignorant, I don't know, like label, because I saw it way too much, and it irritated me the whole time I saw it. Every time I heard Chris Watts is on the spectrum, like I thought, oh my God, all the millions of people that are on the spectrum, you're lumping them with Chris Watts, and it's just crazy.
It's awful, because then it also says, you know, people really don't understand, and a lot of people aren't willing to learn either. So even if you say, you know, about the whole masking thing as well, yeah, people can mask, but it takes a lot out of them. It's draining, and it comes to a point where they can't anymore.
And I think it's more, go ahead, Mary.
I'm just going to say what Potato said about the empathy. That is my baseline when I'm looking at people like Chris to decide if I think it is a spectrum type thing. One of the things I think about is, why do I think, because I'm not in their brain, but why do I think this person did this? Do I think they did it for selfish reasons? Or do I think they just did it because they're immature and just not aware? And if it's the immature, if they're being selfish, people with autism are not, they can be, but normally most people on the spectrum are not selfish. They're not.
I feel like he'd be more honest if he was on the spectrum, right? Like if it was like they say, like the people who have said, oh, he's got to be on the spectrum, that's why he's got no emotion. If that was true, if he really had no emotion, he would be honest, because he wouldn't know. You know what I'm saying? Like innocently. I'm not saying no emotion. I'm saying like the innocent, you know, where you just like out of the mouths of babes type thing.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, you'd see less controlling. So he's controlling himself right now. And you would see a lot less of that purposeful
that makes sense.
Control.
Yeah, that makes more sense than how I put it.
Because they're not aware of on the spectrum, you're just not essentially aware of how to fit yourself into the world.
Or are you really aware of how people are perceiving you, and like how they're really perceiving you? Is like if someone's autistic, do they maybe perceive people as maybe judging them more so than they really are? Like, are things amplified for someone who's on the spectrum?
It can be. So you've met one person on the spectrum, you've met one person on the spectrum, to be very clear. And there's lots of comorbidities and this actually, it's very exciting for me because of the science that we've had in the past 5 years and brain development and all the stuff we know, that we're really getting a handle on this now. But I don't think it's so much that I think they wouldn't necessarily understand. So they'd make a comment, it seemed blunt or careless or off.
Yeah. That's what I mean.
Would say would make sense.
Yeah, so I don't mean that they don't, and I don't mean to say like they don't have emotion, but when their words come out, it doesn't appear that they do, because like you said, blunt, like out of the mouths of babes. Like you ask a 4-year-old, or you go into somewhere with a 4-year-old and you see a big, huge fat person, they might say, look at that fat person.
Right.
It's like that no filter, like just innocence.
Or the timing is off, or the approach, or the tone.
Yeah. Yeah. And I just don't see this in him. I never did. No, I was more duped by, oh yeah, he's a great dad, and there's no way that he could have done this. His wife had to have been manipulating him. That was
and that's the other thing. I got
sucked into that.
If you see manipulation, most of the time, people on the spectrum wouldn't be manipulating for selfish reasons. If you saw them manipulating, it'd be the same reason why a baby cries, because it's the only thing it can do. It's not crying to manipulate.
Yeah, they don't have it in them to manipulate, right? Is basically
they can. I mean,
anybody can, but
generally speaking, you're right. It's a more innocent, more blunt, more.
That's always been my perception.
But I don't think they'd be able to master necessarily controlling the narrative the way Chris did. From looking at it now, he seems like he controlled it. Correct.
Yeah. If they came across as being manipulative, I don't think that someone who is truly on the spectrum wouldn't be a consistent thing for an extended period of time. right? It might be more situational or.
Yeah, and you don't know. I mean, and people, like I said, it's when you've met one person with autism, you've met one person.
Yeah.
Because
That's why
someone
it's
could
called
really
spectrum,
like loud
right?
noises. Someone could, yeah, right. Someone could not like loud noises, and you just don't know what it's going to be for that person. So no, he doesn't strike me that way. Although, who knows? It could. I'm not
Nah,
saying
he's
it's not.
just an asshole.
I just think that
That's the spectrum he's on. He's on.
I
the
just
asshole
think
spectrum.
if he was that manipulative, I just think he's way too crafty. Like he's craftier than I pictured him in, from the beginning. Let's just put it that way. I never really viewed him as crafty. But anyways, we need to get to our thing. So we've all seen this. Do you mind if we just skip right to the meat and potatoes? Because
I
want
don't know about them.
this is brand new.
That's why we were here to showcase this.
I know. This is brand new. Thank you guys, everybody in chat who is here. I haven't even looked at chat. We had such a good discussion. Yeah, I think the snooper's right. People mistook his intelligence. I did. I didn't think he was intelligent. I thought he was a doofus. And I thought that, Shannan just like ran him like nobody's business. But I think that there was other dynamics there that I never took into consideration. And I'm not afraid to say I was wrong. And I've never said, as far as this case goes, I know that I made some prejudgments that I shouldn't have made. And I mean, that's neither here nor there. That was years ago. And we've gone over that. And it's the same thing with the Shane Carey thing. I mean, no one's perfect. But I'm not going to sit here and stomp my feet and say, yes, I was right, just because I can't be wrong. So, I was wrong. I don't know either one of these people. I've never met them. I never will meet, and Chris. But just going off what I saw, and I came to the wrong judgment based on what I saw.
Yeah, but that's a great self-reflection and growth for you.
It is. But it's just sad, I guess, to think about, because like I never went hard on Shannan like a lot of people did. I made my opinion known, but I didn't go on and bash her live after live after live. I've never done that. But the people that did, and now I think about like why her family was like off the chains, think about this case being like the first case that really hit social media by storm. And they had all of those videos, which made it even more enticing.
Correct.
And
yeah, the movie was already there. I mean, that was part of it. That their life was already documented. So it was like ready for production right away.
Mm-hmm. And it was kind of like these people, it was ready for production, but all of these people, all the actors weren't ready and didn't have their scripts because no one knew what to do. So we had like this happen. Then we had Facebook. Everybody was on Facebook, and all these people reached out to his mother immediately. I mean, I never even thought of that when I heard about the case, but people did, and they reached out and they got their grips in her at her weak moment. And they tried to guide her through this messy situation that there's no manual to. And unfortunately, she got some really bad advice, and it just set the stage for just years of online madness on both sides. And I'm glad I haven't seen that again. It's almost like they were the first and kind of the last. I've never seen families and sides like I saw with this case.
Yeah.
So
it started the wild, wild west.
It sure did. It sure did. And I guess just all the videos that they had didn't help matters. It really gave us, I mean, so much content. It was insane. But I guess when you look back at all those videos, that was all her work. That was all the work she was putting in to make this successful. And it's really sad that when she passed, it wasn't. They hadn't been able to make the mortgage. They had to borrow from the 401k. God knows what else. $60 in the bank, and your husband goes and buys dinner with his girlfriend. Dude, I would have been fit to be tied. I would have come home from that trip with a vengeance. Hormones from pregnancy, raging and all. I would have stormed through that door and I would have confronted his ass. How dare you? You know? I can
Maybe that's what happened.
Yeah, I think it is. I think it is. I do.
She should have put that guy in the suitcase.
Hey, Chris, you want to play hide and seek?
God.
Get in here.
Get in here.
Ready or not, here I come. You get the girls in the car and leave.
A question about the Thrive, the patches.
Mm-hmm.
Do you guys think that there's anything that was on them, in them, that could have, you know, if it was upping his metabolism, it could have increased his rage.
Sure.
It could have increased
it's like a stimulant. So I think anytime you have a stimulant, it can make you rage. Or if you stop taking them, if you're, you know, used to taking them and then you stop, you can really get bad. And even though I don't know what's in those things, I know it's a lot of caffeine, but I think there's like herbs that are like stimulant like. There's something in those things.
Well, yeah, and then with the gym, going to the gym and those, because my husband works out all the time, and they take pre-workout stuff and they take post-workout stuff, and that's definitely.
And Nikki even said, I think he was taking more, and he was wearing like 2 patches. She's like, he was getting crazy. He wasn't sleeping. Remember what she said? He wasn't sleeping. He was wearing 2 of those patches. She's like, I don't know what he was taking. Like, she didn't know much about it. It didn't seem like. I don't think she was about all that.
Was that during like the 6 weeks he was with her?
Uh-huh. He was really pumping it up.
Potentially, again, just my thinking here, but potentially that was him trying to satiate his anxiety that was building, that he was trying not to deal with I'm not going to the house, I'm not looking at the pictures, I'm living in Pretendville with my girlfriend, and for 6 weeks, and doing whatever he needed to do to push away any feelings bad that he had, that what he was doing was wrong. And so the amount of resentment and anger in him when Shannan and he got together, it was probably even surprising to him that he had so much of it at that time, because purely speculation.
So you think he was like the type that kept it bottled up?
Oh yeah.
And then when it all came out, he was just like, and that's probably why he explains it like something came over him, like somebody was holding his hands there, because like you said, he was probably shocked at the fact that he didn't let go. Because like you'll hear in this interview, this lady says, you know, he says, oh, and Chris, one of his statements, she talks about, he says, oh, and my hands ended up around her neck. And this lady says, your hands don't end up just around someone's neck. Like, it takes minutes for them to die.
And you did it multiple times, right? He did it to Shannan, and then he did it to the girls, right?
Well, we think he smothered the girls. He didn't strangle them. But yes, I mean, the same amount of time. Yes. I mean, you'd have to, yes. It's not something that just happens just because you put your hand over their mouth. I mean, you've got to hold it there.
But by that time, he had made a decision I think he was probably panicked. I think if this went down the way we're talking about, and it makes sense to me that potentially they were being intimate or whatever, and in the middle of it, she kind of started crying or whatever, because, you know, she couldn't, you know, pretend. And then the conversation got heated and he ended up strangling her. And then what was he going to do?
So I don't think it happened like that. I think it was, I think it was his plan. I think he had thought about it a lot, and he knew that he was going to do that. Like, he was running out of time. Like the girls were due to go back to school and stuff. So once they're in school and everything, you know, he's kind of run out of time for him to do anything about it. So I think that was his last chance to get rid of them. Like, otherwise, why?
About the school thing.
Yeah, I mean, otherwise, why would he say that he'd thought about it when he was putting them to bed, that this was going to be the last time. He knew what he was going to do. He knew that he had to follow through with it that night. And I don't think that there was any fight or anything like that. I think he just did what he knew he was going to do. And he'd said that he felt like, someone else was controlling him and he couldn't take his hands off her. But I think that was just him, his inner need to do that. Couldn't let go and had to get the job done.
You think he was more aware then?
I think he definitely was more aware. Yeah.
Damn. You think he thought about it?
I really do think
Well, I
he
think
did
he
think about
probably
it. Yeah.
fantasized about it over
Yeah.
those 6 weeks.
I think,
Like, I
yeah,
don't
over
think
time.
about
The kids though?
All of them. I mean, look at what he did afterwards, how he, made them disappear.
See,
He
I
literally
feel
put
like
them
it
somewhere
wasn't.
where he put
Yeah.
them somewhere where he didn't think that they would ever be found.
Right.
I
To
mean,
save his
and
own
they,
ass.
yeah, and they probably wouldn't have found them
Mm-mm.
either, because even when he said where they were like, really? Like, how
They
did you
didn't even
get them
believe
in
him.
there?
Mhm.
Exactly. So I don't think they would look, and that where he put them was somewhere that wasn't being used anymore. So it's possible that they never would have been found.
I don't know.
I
I
have to think
just
about
feel
that
like
school thing. That makes
I
sense,
feel like
because once they're in
Bella.
school, they'd be on the record.
And a lot of
The state
times,
would know
a
about them.
lot of these family annihilations happen at the end of the summer holidays before they go back into school. It is it happens a lot.
See, I always thought that Bella walked in and saw, and that was when he decided, like, on that ride, I think that they were asking a lot of questions, and I think they were scared, and I think that he didn't know what to do with them after that. Like, what do you do? Just go home and have Bella go to Primrose tomorrow and tell her teachers that her mom was on the floor of Daddy's truck and she smelled? I mean, what are you going to do? You can't. You can't. And what was he going to do? Where's Shannan? You got to get rid of them because she took the kids. Because how else are you going to explain it? Because Bella was a smart one. Bella
and them
was
going together. You can say she took off with the kids. I don't know.
Yes.
She said she was leaving. She took the kids. And if they never find the bodies and that makes sense, then
she just
nothing.
disappeared.
Yeah. See, I think if he hadn't have made those comments about, being aware that that was the last time he was going to see them, then I think that would be possible. But I think
what did he say exactly? When did he say that?
It was during. I'm pretty sure it was during his confession.
The second one or the first?
The second, I think. Yeah, the second, because the first one he said that she had done it.
Oh, right.
And in the second one, he said
he knew he wasn't gonna.
Yeah, like he'd done their normal routine. They'd been at a party that day and stuff, and he'd taken care of them. He'd fed them dinner. They'd been on FaceTime, and then when he was tucking them into bed, and putting on their rain machines, he knew that was going to be the last time that he was doing it.
But could that be because now this is what I told myself before. I don't know if I still believe this, but this is what I've always thought, that he was, going to leave her and he thought Shannan was going to throw him out and he wouldn't be there to do the routine.
Yeah.
No.
I think then
he was like
thinking, no, because at some point, like if he was all this stuff like with NK and they were arranging like the kids were going to stay with them and stuff, then he would have opportunity to do that routine again in the future. Like maybe not immediately, but sometime in the future. But for him to say to himself, I'm never going to do this again, says a lot to me.
He did, Gina Marie, in the second confession. Initially, he blamed her. He said she hurt them, so he hurt the girls.
Yeah.
Or I mean, I said that wrong.
Yeah,
Shannan hurt the girls, so that's why he went
same.
after her. Yeah, he did the same thing to her that she did to the girls.
Yeah.
Okay, let's get into this interview. Sorry, guys. I said, we'll be done in an hour. Here we are, an hour, and we haven't even watched it. I'm so sorry, but this has been so interesting to talk through. Okay, here we go.
Colorado, 2018, and Frederick, Colorado. He was 33, and he strangled his wife, 34-year-old Shannan Watts, who was 15 weeks pregnant with their third child, who was a boy. They had 2 girls. They had a 3-year-old daughter, Celeste, and a 4-year-old daughter, Bella. And this guy, this relationship, this whole story so confuses me. Again, I've gone down the rabbit hole on this. Look at him. He's a good-looking guy. He had a job. It wasn't like a surgeon, like we're going to get to with Jeff McDonald.
What's that?
He worked at the Weld County Oil.
Mary, I was screen recording and a notification from Discord came through.
That was a Mandy move right there.
I didn't even notice that. I'm sorry. It says, yo, Jay. Hopefully there's no more. No, I'm just kidding.
Site. And she had a good job too. A middle-class family. Had some financial problems, but not overwhelming and pervasive.
Okay, well, that's where Megan's wrong. She hasn't been in the rabbit hole deep enough if she thinks that their money problems weren't a big deal, because they were a huge deal. They were going to lose that house.
Yeah.
And they were being taken to court by the homeowners association, which Chris wasn't aware of either. So what do you make of that, Mary? What do you make of the fact that she kept all that from him? Like, they were at the point where they were having to go to court for the homeowners. She was in charge of the bills. She had already gotten behind on the mortgage where they had to borrow from the 401k, I think in April. And then when she passed, they were, I think, 2 months behind on the mortgage at that point again. Mary?
Sorry, I'm muted. Sorry.
Oh, like
I'm pulling a J. Fine.
It's okay. I can't get mad about that.
All right, ask me the question again, because now I forgot.
So what do you think about the fact, I forgot too. What do you think about the fact, what was it, potatoes?
Finances.
Yeah, that she was keeping it all from him, that they were behind in the mortgage and all that stuff.
The money problems. You know, they had
So
already
did he
filed
know any
bankruptcy
of that?
twice. Well, they had gone through bankruptcy twice. So he already knew that maybe she wasn't the greatest with handling the money, but he continually let her handle it. Right. So two bankruptcies. And then the year that she died in April, they had to borrow from the 401k because I think they were 4 or 5 months behind on the mortgage, which was how much? $2,500 a month? Something crazy.
A lot.
Yeah. And then when she passed, it came out that they were 2 months behind, I think, on the mortgage again. So they had used the 401k to catch up, and then they were behind again. So they were robbing Peter to pay Paul, and that's the situation they were in. And he claims he didn't know. He didn't even know the password to the banking. Like,
no, because she'd taken over all their finances because she'd said that he wasn't good with money because he'd got rid of his vehicle and stuff like that. And she was like, nope, you're not having any control of our money. And she took it all. And he didn't even have access to anything to even know what was going on.
So what do you think of that part of their dynamic?
She didn't want him to leave. I think that she was hiding it from him because he was probably on edge, and she was keeping that information from him because he just needed one more thing to happen, and this is complete speculation, for him to finally walk out the door. That's
I think behind closed doors, he was probably pretty emotionally and verbally abusive. And I think that anything with control that affected him. And so here's the thing. If this is a personality disorder type thing, the basis of it is the person is fearful of being alone. They have an abandonment issues. So if the money, if she was taking care of the money and his life didn't change, then it probably was okay. But if she was taking care of the money and something happened and it caused him to have to change his life, I'm sure it was a huge deal. So I bet she kept it from him because she was trying to, make peace.
Just keep the fighting at a minimum. So if he was verbally abusive, if let's say speculating, he was verbally abusive at home, behind closed doors, do you think that he could hide that from everyone, including like the immediate family, even if they were living with them, because Shanann's family lived with them for like 18 months and they loved Chris. Even after this happened, they were like, her brother was like, he was my brother. You know, the very initial reaction was, he was my brother. So do you think that maybe that was something they overlooked at that moment in time?
Yeah.
Or
He was a narcissist.
Well, I think
he's a narcissist.
Yeah.
I mean, go ahead,
I
Mary.
al-
no, he just probably crafted quite a story for everyone. I mean, he probably had layers and layers of why he was awesome. And so people didn't, you know, they made assumptions. And even living, especially if she didn't want her parents to know too.
yeah, she
And
definitely
if the
probably
kids
would
were
not.
there,
Mhm.
they wouldn't probably do it in front of the kids as much as possible.
Right.
So, yeah, I think you could keep it from them.
That makes
Mhm.
sense.
I think they definitely could have as well, because weren't they staying in the basement?
Hmm. They had their
Yeah,
own little like
and
living area.
so when they go to their bedroom, that could be when that kind of stuff was going on. The whole dynamic could have been different while her family was staying with them. And it was literally behind closed doors in their house, so that the family wasn't seeing that side of stuff. And especially if she didn't want them to know about it, then she would be acting differently as well. And, making it seem like there was nothing bad going on.
Right.
I mean,
And
Paul
living with the family.
Oh, go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead, Mandy.
No,
No, you go.
Oh my God.
Living with the
Mandy,
family.
you're up.
We've all
Yes,
been in
you go.
a position where we've put our game faces on, right? Like get in a tiff with your spouse or partner, and then you have to go to a
An
birthday
event,
party
yeah.
or a yeah. And it could be a simple case of them just really sucking it up and putting a show on. That's all I had to say. It's not really groundbreaking, but go ahead, Mary.
No, I agree with that.
I'm listening to you. I'm off mine. I don't know. Mine will come back up.
I just feel like
I think
for
you're
18
right.
months, that's a long time though.
Oh, I remember what I was going to say. If the basis of Chris's challenge was him feeling abandoned, he may have flourished living with her family and being, Mr. to the rescue, Mr. this, Mr. that.
But where would his abandonment come from? Because it seems to me like he was the apple of his father's eye his whole life.
Oh, it's all perception.
Oh, okay. So it doesn't
what we've
necessarily
learned-
mean he was abandoned. He might
No,
have
not at all.
taken an incident as abandonment and like that manifested inside him. Is that what you're saying?
Correct. Yes. Yeah. What we've learned about trauma and children's trauma is that it's all about the way the child perceives it. And so something could happen and you think nothing of it. And,
So
10 years
that's
later,
why.
the kid
Okay, that makes a lot of sense actually, because I have like way older siblings and they've like, told stories like so like five of my sisters all grew up like boom, 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 boom. And I came later. So anyways, my brother and my sister, so they like all grew up together and they have like different stories about my parents than I do, And then like I'll hear them talk and like one sister will have a story. Do you remember this? And mom acted like that and did this. And like the other sibling was right there and they have a totally different perception of what my mom's mood was, what she reacted like, and how they took away that incident. It's crazy.
Yep.
So.
Yep, it really is. It's really, and it could be if you have an extra highly sensitive kid, it's not necessarily the parents. I mean, you can try, but you just can't control the world.
Right. And I think that's really important to keep in mind, because I think that with this case being, so blown up on social media, that also the hate towards his parents was also blown up because of the guidance that they were getting from the very beginning of the case. Just portrayed them in a bad light. And I've never seen it since then, to be honest, to that extreme. And I just think that we have to just keep in mind how social media skewed how we viewed things and skewed the reality of who that family really is. And also who Shannan's family really is. There was everything was skewed. We didn't see really what they're like. We saw what the Facebook groups portrayed them to be like, you know, and what people perceived them to be like. And that's not fair. It's really not fair because they lost grandchildren. Shannan's parents lost a daughter. You don't get over that, let alone 2 granddaughters and a grandson. You know, I just think that families need to be off limits, you know, unless they're like complete assholes and they're like, yeah, you know, he should have done this, you know. I mean, no one has any control, like you said, Mary, over their adult children. All right, let's go. Look at Megan. She's like, why'd you pause it? But this lady's name is Richards, Laura Richards, right, Potato?
Yeah.
She's from Potato's neck of the woods.
She is, and she is an amazing person. She has done a lot of work for domestic abuse victims and stalking victims. And she was
started like new laws and stuff, right?
Yeah, she has. She was former head of Scotland Yard's homicide prevention unit. And so through her work that she'd done with that, she went on to form Paladin, which is National Stalking Advocacy Service, because, you know, 80% of stalkers never face charges. So she was like, something has to be done about this. You know, people that are stalking victims had no power because there was no laws.
Right.
And so she brought in a law that criminalized stalking in 2012.
I did hear her. She did talk about this. This was a really long interview with Megan. And if you guys want to see the whole thing, this lady is really super interesting. They talked about Murdaugh. They talked about Watson. They talked about another case, but she also went into what you're talking about and what she's done there. And she kind of incorporates it throughout the interview with different examples. And she's brilliant. I was like, she really nailed a good interview with this lady for sure.
And she's worked over 2 decades trying to bring in these new laws and stuff. And she had a lot of pushback for it as well, which is shocking because she'd gone into domestic violence law reform as well to like criminalize patterns of abuse and coercive control and like psychological abuse and all that kind of stuff. And she succeeded in doing that in like 12 months.
Quite a feat.
So it's amazing, especially with so much pushback as well. Like they didn't want it to come in, and it took a while for them to finally accept it. And there's stuff recently as well that she's got through.
There's people like her that go down in history, you know, like Erin Brockovich, you know, same thing. Yeah, she's amazing, very fascinating woman. And I mean, I listened to the whole interview. I was cleaning and doing stuff, and I learned a lot from her. She's very insightful, but she doesn't come across as like a feminist in the you know, the terms of like a feminist, where usually you see like at least here, you know, it's either one or the other. It's like you're either far over here or you're over here. And that's what we get. And she's very middle of the road, just very matter of fact and factual. And these are the statistics, and this is where we're at. So
yeah, like a lot of the stuff, like people say, well, men are victims of domestic abuse as well, which they are, but the majority of cases it's the other way around. And she says she doesn't want people to water down the fact that it happens on a huge scale to women, because when you do that kind of thing, you know, nothing changes, nothing gets done, because it's like, well, it happens to everyone, so
it's just human nature, right? It just happens.
So she's like, no, actually, I want us to focus on this and have this conversation because it's important, because it happens way too much and nothing's done about it. So
well, good for her. I'm glad that you guys have her. All right, we're only 48 seconds in. All right, here we go.
What looked like the perfect family. The neighbors in the Netflix documentary, I think it was, described them that they were saying, like, I watched Chris Watts. I thought, I got to up my game as a parent. I got to spend more time with my kids. Got to get out there and throw the ball with him. Look at him. Look at this guy. He, according to the reports, was the more subservient one. I'm not sure if that's the right word, but she seemed more dominant than he did. She seemed more in control in terms of family decision making. You know, this is where I want to live. This is what I want for the girls. This is what I want you to do. And he seemed more of like a yes man than someone who is engaging in coercive control. This is my layperson's opinion. You can take this apart in a second. That's my
Okay. I want to just comment on this, just on the dynamics. I feel like she's spot on, but I don't think that Chris minded being told what to do, because I think that was what he came from. I think he came from a traditional family where the woman's at home running all of the household. The guy goes to work and he comes home, and that's their life. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that. And I'm not saying there is, but I'm just saying I don't think he was put off by her controlling everything, even after 2 bankruptcies. I think he was like, that's just how it's supposed to be. Like, didn't
I
question
agree.
it. Didn't think
Yeah,
twice.
I agree.
Like, how can we not make this happen again? Like, what can we do different to make sure we don't have a 3rd bankruptcy? That discussion wasn't had, obviously.
Yeah.
They
No, I
just-
don't think he would have.
I don't either.
That would have been a worry he wouldn't have wanted to have.
And it
He
would have been
had the
confrontation.
bankruptcy and moved on.
And it would have
Well,
been
that is the other
confrontation.
thing. Confrontation is so you have 2 types of people. You have people who like the confrontation and have personality disorders, and then you have people who really don't like the confrontation. And those people are the ones, from my experience, that tend to shock people with their behavior seeming suddenly to happen.
The quiet ones, per se, the ones that
Yeah.
bottle it up and don't, come to you and say, hey, I'm feeling like this is a little one-sided. Like, I'm doing everything after I get home from work. Do you think that maybe one day you can just, not do your videos at night? That's what mature people do. They have a problem. They talk about it right away, and then they can nip it in the bud. But people like Chris don't have those skills, I guess, to communicate feelings. And I think that, that can also go back to family dynamics. Like my parents' generation, they weren't big feelers. My parents weren't big huggers. They didn't kiss us. They just weren't that affectionate. I know they loved us. I didn't question that, but they just didn't show their love that way. And there's nothing wrong with that. But I made the deliberate choice when I had kids to be the opposite of that. Not because, they're bad parents, but just because I wanted to show my kids that, physical affection. But at any rate, I just think that there's, everybody's family is different. Every person comes from a different family, and then you blend those families together, and then they have kids and so on and so on. You don't know what you're going to get, because you got 2 people that are trying to make shit work in one household, and then you add little ones to the mix, and you kind of go with whatever's working.
Yeah.
And people fall back on what they know.
Exactly.
Like what you're saying, how they grew up, especially when they get into the little ones and whatnot. And the way I see it, and I could be wrong, but the way I see it is that I think that Chris liked to be the hero. He liked to, oh, you need me to do this? I can go do this. And that was kind of his love language. I don't think it's that he didn't have feelings per se. I just think his perspective was off. And if he wasn't willing to have the confrontational conversations with his wife, then he's making assumptions of what she's doing and probably assuming it very incorrectly. And then they're never talking about it.
Okay, so let me give you an example of something that happened in the relationship. So he was all big into NASCAR. That was something that him and his dad did, when he was growing up. That was their thing. And Shannan was like, no, my girls are not going to NASCAR. Now, maybe that's wrong of her. That is wrong of her to say that, to just blatantly say they're not going to do this, no discussion. But shame on him for not also having the discussion. Like, look, this is something that was important to me, my dad. Would she have cared? I don't know. But it doesn't sound like those types of conversations happened. And the resentment just builds when those conversations don't take place, because people get in their own heads and then they assume. And then they assume the worst. And then you just build on that.
Yeah, I think you're onto something. I think just off the top of my head, they were young. So if they'd had the conversation, what he might have found out was, I'm just telling you, they can't go until they're a little older. I don't want them around all those fumes and all that stuff. And what if something happens? You won't be able to, they won't be watching, so they won't be aware to get out of the way. So I just would like them to be a little bit older. And so then he says, oh, so there's a reason. It makes sense. She's protecting the children. And it's not just that she's keeping them from me. Because if it is that abandonment and narcissistic thing, then it's all about me. So she's doing it to hurt me. And he's not thinking about, well, why would she make this choice for the kids? That fiduciary responsibility of taking care of a child, it's not actively a thought in his mind, if that makes sense, in my opinion.
It's just crazy to me because the most of the time when you see these men do this, like you look at Murdaugh and, you know, others, it's usually for money. It's money reasons. There's either money problems or, you know, they want to get the life insurance money because they've gotten themselves into trouble or whatnot. Was this really because he found an out with Nikki? I mean,
well, look at Scott.
It could have been to do with money as well, though. If they were having financial issues and then he meets someone who's very stable and who is like also taking control of his life, you know, saying, do you have 401k and all this kind of stuff? Like, are you secure? And about his living arrangements.
How about
like
this one, Potato? How about alimony and child support, putting that in the mix?
Yeah, exactly. He
You're never going to get ahead, would you?
Nope. And he did say as well that they were always house broke. So he knew that they, you know, they didn't have money to go off and do all these fun things and experiences that he was probably wanting to do. And he suddenly found someone that he could do all that with. But then if he kept his family around, like say he just separated, he would still have to put money into that. And he probably still wouldn't have the money to do the things that he wanted to do. So I think it does have a lot to do with finances as well.
And didn't you say they went out to dinner and it was like $60 or something? Like, didn't something happen like that?
Yeah, that was
she was on the trip before she got home, right? So she was on. He used their joint account, correct?
Yeah, he used the debit card to pay for dinner at the Lazy Dog, and
because
she saw it.
He'd been using his gift cards, hadn't he? And then he'd run out, so he had to use his their account, and he was just like, whatever.
Yeah, at that point, I think, like you said, Potato, he had succumbed. He didn't care if she found out. He didn't give a damn because he knew damn well, because he didn't have the password to the banking app. He knew she would see that charge.
Yep.
So I don't know what went through his head that night. If he just was too embarrassed to say, "Hey, Nikki, can you pay?" I don't know. I mean, was it an ego?
The date of that night.
Well, it was
what
August
date that was.
11th.
Oh, you know it off the top of your head.
I do. Sadly.
Well, that's like the fourth date.
No, I'm sorry. It was the
1 week, 3 days.
It was it was the 11th, Saturday the 11th. She left Friday for Arizona.
Yep.
You know, this is pitiful. I didn't realize how many details.
It was right after she left.
So it was, she left Friday. Saturday, he got a babysitter and went out with Nikki and they had dinner. And that was when she saw the thing. So I don't remember though, did she question him before she got home?
Well, I don't know actually. Maybe she did because
because he said he had salmon.
Yeah, he said that he'd gone out with work friend or whatever.
Yes. Oh, I remember this. She did question him, didn't she? Why she was gone? That was like the conversation that they actually had, wasn't it?
Yeah, she was like, why was your bill so much? And he said he paid for a friend.
He said salmon. He's like trying to figure out.
Yeah, he said I had the salmon. And I think she looked up the menu and she was like, you're full of freaking shit. You didn't have the salmon. You bought 2 meals. And I want to know who you bought a meal for. So he was lying, saying it was his buddy at work. But she wasn't buying it. We're not stupid. You know, you feel it. You know already something's wrong. She was already sick to her stomach.
So you're telling me that prior to this Saturday, he was hanging out with Nikki for the 6 weeks and he was using gift cards?
He got gift cards at work.
And he ran out of gift cards.
Mhm.
on the Saturday, went out to dinner with Nikki, got
Realize,
a
yep.
babysitter,
Mhm.
and then 2 days later, he kills everyone.
Yep.
Yes.
Because she knew that something was going on.
Okay, so that's important. I think that's very important, that sequence of, I have a way to make this work and be secretive with my gift cards, and now I don't. And then he makes the decision that he's
just going to go for it. I'm just going to put the charge through, and what happens, happens.
Yep.
It's like, I really
Yep.
want this salmon, you know?
Yeah,
I really want the
good
salmon.
I want the salmon and all the consequences that come with
Right.
salmon.
Yep. He took right when that waitress walked away with that card, you know that in his head, he knew it was on.
done. It's like I said, like, I think he just got to a point where there was nowhere else to turn. Like, he had to leave his family
Well,
and
he
stay with
knew he
Nikki.
didn't have
And
the
he had
balls.
he had nothing that was covering him anymore. He'd run out of money. He couldn't say to Nikki, "Oh, I can't afford to pay for dinner," because how's that going to make him look to her when they've been having these conversations about finances and stuff?
And he damn sure couldn't afford an apartment.
No, exactly.
I
And
mean,
that
how
was
was
the
he gonna
whole
pay
thing.
for
That was what he was going to do. He was going to get
He was
somewhere big enough for his family.
He was
he got to the
stuck.
point where
So
he had
he was going to get rid
no
of the whole
options.
fam. They left. They're going to just disappear. She went and started a new life. And then he's going to sell the house, which had gone up in value like $400,000. He would have been fine.
Yeah. I mean, look at what he was thinking about when they were in the house, when she was missing. Or no, he'd said it to NK afterwards, that he'd found her ring and like, how much do you think this ring is worth? He was thinking about money a lot for him to have that thought and ask her how much you think it's worth. And she's like, I don't know, just pawn it.
Yeah, he knew he wasn't going to be able to afford shit. Interesting. I hear someone's birdies.
Yeah, I can hear birds too.
It's me.
Oh, they sound
You
cute.
have a whole damn farm over here.
They sound really cute.
It's the cat after the birds, and then it's the birds.
We love animals.
Yeah.
All right, let's keep going.
Approach my takeaway watching it. Then he loses a bunch of weight. Never a good sign in a marriage. Loses a bunch of weight and starts an affair with a coworker. And his wife Shannan goes away with the girls for 6 weeks to visit family in North Carolina. He falls for this other woman pretty hard. And we know, I think it's from his Google searches, that he was Googling things like, when do you say I love you? Like, what does it feel like to be in love? Weird searches that a normal person would not be doing, that are definitely a flag. And then the wife comes back from the business trip at 2 a.m. She'd been with the girlfriends on a true business trip, comes back at 2 a.m. And what we know is now, because he ultimately confessed, he strangled her to death. They had a fight. They had some sort of an argument. He strangled her to death. He says he took his 2 daughters, who were alive, in the backseat of the truck over their dead mother's body, which was on the floor of the backseat, drove to the oil site, smothered his 3-year-old and his 5-year-old. The 5-year-old said, "Are you going to do to me what you just did to Cece," the 3-year-old, and said, "Daddy, no. It's too horrific to even really conjure." And he did it anyway. He did it anyway. And then he disposed of the daughters' bodies in the oil tanks. Put one in one oil tank and one in the other. So gruesome, he could even describe the sound of their little bodies hitting the liquid, and buried his wife in a shallow grave nearby. This guy, who had friends, who again was perceived by some as his model father, who doesn't have some long criminal history, I don't get it. And I'm desperate to get it. Would you help me get it?
Yes, and I think the way you describe it, again, people should remember what he did and what he said he did too. And he has changed his narrative at least 4 times, but the way that he described putting their bodies into that oil tanker, I believe that version of what happened. And for us all to think about the fear and the terror that the children must feel, having seen what happened. I believe Bella saw what happened to her mum, and then having this sense that these horrific things are going to happen to you at the hands of your daddy, someone who's meant to care, love you, and look after you. And those moments are just so haunting. And I think when we understand how the media characterized him as a good father, a good dad, this, you know, perfect, dutiful husband, and of course there were all these different videos of Shannan, because her business was on Facebook, of her, and she was described as bossy and, oh, this nagging woman and too strong. And instantly we get into the victim blame and the sympathy of excusing what he did. And that is everything wrong with the way these cases are not only understood, but the way that they're talked about in the media. And when we think about when Chris and Shannan first got together, she was very ill with lupus, and she was heavily dependent on him. She thought he was her savior. And that's what she said. She couldn't have got by without him. So the relationship dynamic was very different. She was wholly dependent on him. They got married. She didn't know whether she could have children. And then by a miracle, because of lupus, she had 2 children, 2 girls. And then the relationship dynamic started to change. And she started to work more. And yes, they had debt. And that's another important point. But the dynamic shifted. And she was working. She was going out. She was no longer as dependent on him. And as you described, you know, the dynamic shift, and that can happen in a relationship. He then starts this Thrive program, which is something that she's advocating for as well as part of her business. And he starts to lose all this weight. And then he starts to feel himself more. And he's taking this introvert is now becoming someone quite different. Even Shannan said that she didn't know. He was taking videos of himself working out. And then he meets Nikki. And he falls for her hook, line, and sinker. He's writing her these love notes at a time where Shannan is sensing that things are going terribly wrong in their relationship. And then she finds out she's pregnant. And maybe that pregnancy is used as a way to try and bring them closer. But of course, what we know is that babies don't tend to bring you closer. They tend to add more stress and pressure. And he, by other people's opinions, didn't want the baby. They had a gender reveal party that was cancelled, and she sensed that he didn't want the baby. And even the video of them announcing the baby, he just clearly wasn't happy about the whole thing.
That's true.
You can say he was shy on camera, but you can see that he was not excited about it. He cancelled this gender reveal.
He was not excited about the announcement of baby Nico.
Nope, not at all.
Have you ever seen that video, Mandy and Mary?
I have seen the one where he finds out she's pregnant.
You have?
The one that she isn't there one where she records the reaction? I don't know anything about.
Oh, well, let's play it right quick. It's only a minute long. So let's go ahead and play it.
So that should only take us about 15 minutes.
Right. We should be done by that by midnight.
And this was June 16th, wasn't it?
This is June the 16th. Look at Potato.
Yeah. So not long after he'd started having email conversations with Envy.
Yes. He was already in the midst of starting this affair.
I think it was like a week.
Yeah. Here he comes.
We did it again. I like that shirt.
Awkward.
See how he gave himself like 5 seconds processing time? Like, how do I react here?
Does he stop like that and then like scan the room before he comes in every day he gets home from work?
So pink means...
Listen to him.
That's just the test.
I know. It just says the pink is going to be girls.
I don't know. Just the test.
That's awesome.
That's how I respond when my kids telling me about Minecraft. Like, it's just
yeah, right.
That's awesome.
So wait,
when he says
wow,
that is it right there.
This is for Nico?
This is for Nico.
I thought it was, which one did she do in the baby's room?
That's
was the one I
for
saw.
Cece. That was for
Cece.
When
she
she's
didn't seem very happy then either.
He seemed more happy with Cece to me. Than he did with this for sure.
Yes.
But he walks in and he sees the shirt that says, "Oops, we did it again." And he's like, I mean, that was like a long pause.
It was
Like,
a long pause.
he had to think, how am I supposed to react to this? Because I don't feel happy,
Yeah.
but I got to put a happy on. And then this right
Correct.
here, that wow. And then they cut it off. But he says,
Yeah, they
when you
missed
want,
it.
when you want to, it happens.
Mhm.
Right. He does say something like that. When you want it, I
Yep.
guess it happens.
Yeah. When you want it, I guess it happens.
Oh,
Yep.
think about that. Because he
When
does say
you
it
want
that
it.
way, doesn't he?
Mhm.
When you want something, I guess it happens. So that information, if I'm going to make, assumptions about it, that they had conversations, they had decided they were going to start trying again. Maybe he was like, okay, we can try, but because it was so hard to get pregnant or this or that,
He
that
probably
really
didn't think it would
so.
happen.
Didn't think,
Mhm.
yeah, because
Mhm.
that's what they were saying, that it only took once. Whereas before they'd really struggled, but this time it was once.
Mhm.
I wonder if he felt like she did it on purpose. Like if she had control over it. I mean, it would just increase his feeling of resentment during that time.
Yeah, like to kind of convince himself that she pulled one over on him or something.
So did he tell the girlfriend that
She had no idea that his
Another
wife
baby?
was pregnant. Mm-mm.
Oh,
Nope, just knew that there was 2 girls. So what does that tell you? I mean, yeah, like he was maybe talking to Nikki about getting bunk beds for the girls and, going on trips with the girls, maybe going along with everything. Cause like Nikki was saying, me and my sister shared a room and I wouldn't have it any other way. Like, I'm so glad that we were able to do that and we're close because of it. And she was like saying those things to him, but he wasn't including baby Nico in the bunk bed plan. She knew nothing of baby Nico. So everything that she was talking about was just incorporating the girls because that's all she knew about. He didn't mention, anything about Nico. So it tells me he wasn't the one coming up with ideas about the girls either.
well, and everyone knows if you're a parent of 3 kids, which I'm not, that's a whole nother. You go from 2 to 3. That's different housing arrangements. That's different vehicles,
especially a different sex, because you definitely can't have them in the same room. As they get older, they're going to need their own room.
I mean, I'm sure their whole house is pink, so you can't.
And there's more of them.
Well, I just think the whole cost factor, okay? Because you're thinking already they're paying X amount of dollars to have their kids in Primrose. And, I blame the MLM for a lot of their showy-offy stuff that she bought, because I think in order to sell, you have to sell, you have to look successful. You have to look like this has worked for you in order to get people on. Because you can't.
They're not going to jump if you're in a 1952 El Camino
right.
And your kids are
exactly. And if you're living in an apartment, like they're going to look at you and go, if this is so wonderful, why are you still up in an apartment? Like, why aren't you in some nice subdivision, So that I blame the MLM, because I don't think that MLMs make successes out of people. So I think they break people. I think they ruin families. I think they cause people to get into debt. And I think they carry false hope. There's very few people that become wealthy off an MLM. Yeah. And, they're very deceitful. And a lot of people fall for that.
Mm-hmm. I mean, look at what happens when you reach a certain point, you get a flashy car, and it makes it seem like, they've earned this vehicle.
Yes.
But if they don't keep up their sales, they lose that vehicle.
Right.
So from that point, they have to be on it all the time.
I think the MLM wanted to put them up in Teslas and Lexuses because it makes their salespeople look wealthy when they're not.
Yeah.
Because really, the Watts family had no business driving in a Lexus. They're an expedition family. They're not a Lexus family. And it's just, it makes people live beyond their means in order to be successful. And they have this false perception that they're going to make it big if they do all this and it's going to pay off. Like, I won't have any worries. I'll be able to pay off the whole house. If we struggle now, I'll be able to pay it off later. That's what they get you roped into when you go to those
Yeah.
stupid conventions.
Yes,
Well,
the
I
meat
wanted
doesn't
to
They
stink.
dangle the
sell.
carrot.
Yeah, I wanted to sell Mary Kay when I was a kid because they had pink cars. Y'all
I
remember?
wanted the mint green one,
Mary
the mint
Kay-
one
Yeah.
that they had.
Dude, I remember the lady that used to tote around town in the pink Mary Kay Cadillac, but
Yeah.
she was few and far between. She was the only one with the pink Cadillac in my town. There was one lady. But see,
now you see a pink Cadillac and you're like, that's the drug dealer.
but like with this MLM, you know, with what Shannan was doing, she had to rope in all her close friends to also sell. So like Mary Kay lady used to make it big because she had a bunch of customers. That's not how it works anymore. You got to get these people also selling to their people. It's more deep than that, than the Mary Kay, I think, because like the Mary Kay lady did great because everybody in the town bought from her. She didn't have 20 people underneath her in the same town selling the same shit. She was the go-to, right?
Right.
So like with Thrive, you had everybody you had to try to get them to sell it too. And then they got the car. Remember when Nikki Atkinson got her car? Oh my God, we're on a cruise and she just got her car. Wow. But you know, who insures that car? Because I'll tell you what, it costs a lot more to insure a Lexus than it does an Expedition. You know, I mean, it's all of these factors. They set you up for failure.
Yeah.
I hate MLMs.
Yep. Me too. Me too. Me too.
All right, let's keep going.
He was seeing Nikki. He wanted to invest in that relationship. He told Nikki that he had separated or was separating from Shannan, which wasn't happening. And Shannan goes off, you know, she's writing these letters to him saying, I'll do anything to fix it. Tell me what you need, Chris. And he's withholding sex from her. He is completely out of the relationship and she's desperate to restore the relationship. And his attention is elsewhere. He's doing these Google searches. When do you tell someone that you're in love with them or how? Well, that tells you about shallow effect. It's not really a feeling because you just say it and you do it. You don't research it to understand it.
What do you make of his,
right?
This is my
So that's
own
the shallow
antiquated notion of control. You know, I didn't feel like he was the one controlling because she's writing him these notes like, I've been gone for 6 weeks. You called me twice. You'd think a man would want to talk to his wife and daughters. And he writes back, you're so right. I'm so sorry. I love you, honey. I'll do better. All of his notes back during that 6-week period. And this is all leading up to the murder. It's right before he murders them. He's using the emojis. He's really, kind of sweet. Yes, he's ignoring her, but
calling
when
her boo.
he texts, it always seems to be from like a beta role. That just how I read those texts. And the reason I found it alarming is it just didn't sound like someone who's going to go commit a murder. I don't know what somebody sounds like who's going to go commit a triple murder, but I just don't picture them using emojis. And so where am I going wrong?
Well, they tend to be very cool, calm and collected, actually. Every case I've seen, when we've had even CCTV footage of them in the act, it's cool, calm and collected. But where are you going wrong? I wouldn't say you're going wrong. You're interpreting what you're seeing, but my interpretation would be he's managing her. He's manipulating her. He's keeping her at arm's length, telling her what she needs to hear to get off his back because he's cheating on her. He's going sand dune surfing with Nikki. He clearly wants to be with Nikki. He's telling Nikki that he's going to leave Shannan. Nikki suspects he's cheating on her. Because as women, we know the signs. We may not tell people about it, but Shannan actually did. She did go to that conference after that trip. And that's where she was when she came back at 1 o'clock or whatever it was. She had found that on their credit card, because they didn't have much money, there was, I think, something like $60 that the Lazy Dog had been spent. She believed she was cheating. He was cheating on her. I believe that she came back to confront him because she came back early and her best friend said she wasn't herself. At the conference, she was just really out of sorts. She wasn't eating. She was really upset. And I believe she came back to confront him. And it's at the point of being confronted. He says that he pushed her off of him, or he got himself off of her And I believe that they were having sex. There was some attempt to restore the relationship, but his account, he said, I told her I didn't love her and I didn't want to be with her anymore. And I pushed her away and I found my hands around her neck. Well, even that account is inauthentic, because you don't just find your hands around someone's neck, and it takes minutes, not seconds, to strangle someone and asphyxiate them and kill them. And the girls were shallow sleepers, and I believe one of them came in. And he took those decisions. That was all on him. And it may not have been something that was premeditated, but it unfolded. And the worst thing that he then did was load Shannan into the car and load the two girls into the car. And he had 45 minutes to make the right decision. But he took those two girls with their mother dead in the car, and he then strangles them and asphyxiates them one by one, and then disposes of their body as if they're rubbish, as if they're just trash.
Okay. I want to ask you guys what you think about the sex thing, because that's been something that has always been talked about, was him saying that they had sex.
Yeah.
And this woman seems to believe it, that they did.
I don't know, because the whole time that they were in North Carolina, she was trying to get him to like be intimate with her, and he was having none of it. Like, he wouldn't even touch her, and that was her big thing. It's like, he doesn't even want to like touch me, whereas before he would have been all over me. And I think the state that she was in, like, she was pregnant, tired, she'd had this emotional weekend. I don't think that she would have, you know, gone that far with him that night. So I don't think that they were.
I think that was if he had planned this out, that was the easiest way to get her in a position, not literally, but you know what I mean, get her in a place where she was, what's the word I'm looking for?
Like vulnerable?
Vulnerable,
yeah. Yes, vulnerable. She was vulnerable. And
couldn't he have just waited for her to go to sleep, though? Yeah. Like, just pretended to be asleep and let her get in bed? But I don't think she was going to...
know. It's been a long time since I've strangled somebody.
See, I don't think that he had a chance to even think. Because I think when she come in, I think she was pissed. And I think she immediately wanted to talk about this receipt. And I think an argument ensued, because I don't think he had the balls to just come clean. Like, you know, some people, when they're pushed to the very edge and they go, okay, fine. You know, yes, I'm having an affair. Yes, I want a divorce. Like, most people would get to that point eventually. Most people. And it's like he didn't. It's like he got to the point where he just couldn't say it. It was easier for him to do what he did than to actually face it.
So you don't think that there was any kind of intimacy? You think it just probably shit hit the fan?
Oh, yeah, I think she was pissed. I don't think she was about any intimacy. I think she wanted the truth, because remember, he kept saying that she kept wanting him to admit that he was having an affair. In the first confession, when he's getting interrogated, he's like, he kept saying something along the lines that she kept wanting, you know, him to admit it. And he said he couldn't do it. And I think that's when Bella heard them arguing. Like, she heard the noise and came in. And I think Bella's so sensitive. And I think that she would have been very upset and crying. And then you see, you know, I mean, the visual that we heard, that he drugged Shannan wrapped in a sheet down the stairs, one by one. Imagine what Bella heard when her mother hit each and every step.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, she wasn't just like, oh, here, Daddy, put me in the truck. You know, let's go for a ride. Bella knew something was wrong. And I guarantee you, she was scared out of her wits. And I guarantee you, the whole time, I don't think they were quiet. I think they were scared. And I don't think Bella was old enough to really know, like, I probably should just not say anything. I think she was scared, and I think she was probably talking the whole way. And I think that's when he made that decision. What else am I going to do with this? What, you know what I'm saying? Like, that 45 minutes is a long time.
Yeah. So let's play that out for a second, okay? What do you think it's possible then that during that 45 minutes that Chris isn't the one that actually killed the kids or something like that, that he had help, that he called someone and said, we got to do something because I can't. I mean, maybe he wasn't planning on killing the girls to begin with, but what you're saying, I mean, I'm just putting myself in that situation. It's making me nauseous. Just thinking about having my kid in the back being like, and knowing, I mean, I didn't have a visual before, because I really did. I paid attention to this case, but I wasn't, certainly wasn't like you all. So I didn't think, I can't name off dates here.
Mary's like, I didn't know people like you existed. I'm going to exit quietly.
No, I found my people. Are you kidding me? I've been looking for you all my life. I just didn't know. You're right. So, but it makes sense to me if he really did like drag Shannan down the stairs and stuff, that what the baby said to him when she said it was, are you going to do that to me too?
I know, it makes me sick. And he even says it in his second confession that she said, Daddy, no.
Yeah.
And then he did it.
Yeah.
And he tells the story like he's talking about high school graduation. I mean, he did get a little teared up, but now knowing what I know about like behavior and stuff and like his behavior, that could have been his, acting emotional in front of these cops because he knows he should be. And that for a mother to see that would be really hard for me to swallow. To see a different person than who I thought I raised. And I don't know if I could ever come to terms with that if I saw that. That would be really hard. Because I think, you have this envision, you see your son, you see him a couple times a year, if that, and when you do see him, he's caring for those kids. He's got a routine. He's doing everything that you would want to see your son doing as a dad and a husband. He works. They got a nice home. They had no idea about Chris didn't tell them about their financials. They had no idea they had bankruptcies until they died. So, I mean, he did a good job of faking it.
Yeah. So about him, making the decision that he had to do something with the girls on the way out to the oil field as well. During his confession, he did say that he had attempted to take their life in the house too, and that he thought that, it was done, but they'd woken up, and that he saw that, they weren't acting right or whatever. So if that's true, his second confession, then he'd already attempted, which makes you think that, he already knew what he was going to do. He just hadn't succeeded the first time with them. And then he'd done it to Shannan. And then he got them in the truck because, it was getting light now. So he had to get a move on. He had to go out there. So he had to take them as they were and then do it once he was there.
God, it's so hard to even think about, to be honest.
It really is. It's awful.
And what really bothers me the most, just I hate to keep going back to his parents. And the only reason I do, I guess, is because it's personal to me, just because I met his dad and I see the love they have for him and the hope that they have in maybe someday finding out that he really didn't do this, and it breaks my heart to see that, because those people deserve peace, and to have their son who's done this and won't give them the answers they want. And then, to call and be like, oh, hey, we're having ribs. Like, I'm so excited. Like, and then as a mom, you sit back and you think, what? Who are you? Like that would just be really hard. I don't think you would. I don't know how you ever accept that. And it breaks my heart to see people who have taken like advantage of their, I don't know what you'd call it, if it's grief or what you'd call it, but to take advantage of that and kind of feed into their hopes that are really not realistic and kind of keeping them in slowly. It's like I picture, someone being drugged behind a vehicle down a gravel road and just drug and drug and drug. And I feel that's what people have done to them. And it's just really difficult to see. It really is. And I think that social media can be so vile when it comes to victims and people that are in vulnerable positions on both sides of the story. And that's all I have to say about that.
And he buries Shannan. And it's in those moments that he makes those decisions, but he carries on the lie. Even when the police are called, he's carrying on the lie. She was 15 weeks pregnant. There was no care or concern. My wife's mission, she's got lupus, 15 weeks pregnant, my 2 girls, everything was about maintenance, and he was cool, calm, and collected. And it was the neighbor who spotted his behavior, who said that he's more animated than usual, that he pulled the truck up to the door. And it was the neighbor saying, I don't know, there's something, it's just not right. I don't know.
The neighbor was a star.
He's saying they argued and she just left with the children. Well, there was no evidence that she had just left with the children. Her phone was there. The car was there. How would she even be able to get the children out without the car? Where would she get?
That's why I don't think it was premeditated, because all of these things she's talking about are so true. Like, if he was going to plan it, unless Potato, you don't think he planned it to that effect. Like, he just planned like how he was going to just snuff the family out and get rid of them. But he didn't really think of the aftermath.
Yeah, I don't think so. I think it was premeditated in the terms of he knew that he was at the end of the road and he had to do something, but I don't think he thought afterwards how he was going to make it like a believable scenario.
Right. Like, how are you going to go back home now with your 2 girls?
Mm-hmm.
Like, how are you going to do this? How are you going to explain this? What's your plan? And then if Bella's hysterical, how are you ever going to calm that down? And it's sick. It's so sick to think about that he was more willing to snuff out little Bella because of what she knew or what she saw than he was to just fess up.
Mm-hmm. And I think he was probably thinking about it all day. Like, what could I say? Like, someone's going to realize that she's not around anymore. I could just say that she's taken off with the kids, but her car's still there. So maybe someone came and picked her up.
Right. But
And
the thing is, he's so stupid. Like, all her friends would know her routine, but he didn't think that deep.
And I don't think he knew to the extent of how much they kept in contact as well, because I mean, the first people that they contact in the morning when they wake up is each other. Like, they literally plan out their day of
he was not anticipating that. He was not anticipating Nikki at 9 a.m.
No, and I think that's why he was like, wait, why are you there? Like, what is going on? And he didn't realize that, they talked about the doctor's appointment and all that kind of stuff. And Nikki knew her schedule probably better than he did.
Right.
And that's the perspective thing again. Because if when Shannan was out of sight with the kids doing their thing, he wasn't, I mean, like, if we're talking about personality disorders and narcissism, he's not thinking about them. Out of sight, out of mind.
He's thinking about himself, right?
Yeah, it's just perspective. Not necessarily purposefully, but that's just his go-to.
It's just how his mind operated.
Yeah, and he describes like her friends and stuff as her people. That it's a separate part. He's not involved in that side of stuff.
Yeah, that's true.
People.
But you notice too, he says her people, and he says it's she doesn't hit me back right away. That's okay, but she always hits her people back.
Yeah,
because that's where the money is, right? She's got to hit those people back. So if we go with the thought that he thought that she was really doing better than she was, and she was kind of keeping that under wraps, thinking eventually this is going to pay off, and he's not going to be any of the wiser that we were in trouble to begin with. I know people that can get into that headspace, and you kind of convince yourself that this is going to be your way out. And I don't even know where I was going with that, but yeah.
Well, a true narcissist never thinks they're going to fail. So they cannot see themselves as failing. So they pivot as soon as they get to that point. it's this cognitive dissonance that their brain just cannot handle it. And so then they'll turn, and how do I make myself look good in this situation? What do I do? And so he probably didn't have a plan. He probably, like you're saying, like, okay, I'll do this. And then, oh, no, okay. Oh, someone just showed up. Okay, how am I going to explain this? And
Yeah.
I mean, when he grabbed the
all the
phone
things
or
just
went
kind of
into the
happened.
car,
Mhm.
when the
His
police were there
coworkers
and all
were
that.
on the way to the site. So
Yep.
here he is, right? He got there and he buried his wife, half-ass buried his wife because he was running out of time because coworkers were going to show up. And then he still got his daughters that he has to. I mean, he can't have his daughters in the back of the car when the coworkers come. What if they need a tool or something and they walk over to his truck? He's done. He had to act quick, and he didn't have time to go anywhere else. He had GPS on his truck. If he went anywhere else, they were going to know where he went. He's an idiot. I don't think he planned it at all. I really don't. If he planned it, he would have taken the Lexus.
I don't know, but he made sure that he was going out to that site that morning as well. He wouldn't normally go
did,
straight into the field. He'd normally go to the office, but
Oh,
you know,
you're
there was a
right.
leak, and you know, that's like the golden
He
opportunity. Oh my God,
volunteered too.
I can go out to this site that no one really goes to anymore because it's got this leak. So I'm going to volunteer to go and check it out. And I'm going to tell the other person who was going to go out there, no, there's no need for you to go. I'm fine. See, he literally said that. You don't need to come.
He did
So
all
maybe
that.
he was just planning on putting Shannan out there and not the girls. I mean, maybe when
he knew about the leak, like they knew
But
on
then
Friday, didn't
again,
they,
I
about the
mean,
leak?
look at Chris though. He's always like the, nice guy. He's the one that'll give you the shirt off his back. Remember the one guy said, "Oh, I moved," and he was the first one to volunteer to help me move. And how do you know he wasn't just like that? That's how he got, like, that was part of his charm, to be the first one to jump up and volunteer. Like, I'll be the guy. I'll be the go-to guy.
Yeah, it's love bombing. It's what they do. They flood you with all this good stuff, and then they suck your soul out.
Right, because you can't, because if you ever say anything bad and they do it in front of others, like, they come across as like the great guy. And then when you're behind closed doors, they're an asshole. But then if you tell people like, oh, he's done this or he's done that, they won't believe you.
Yep.
Because he's so nice. Like, remember her friend Gina, the one that was in her wedding, said her kids loved Chris. Her baby bonded with Chris. I mean, what? That would make me think like, oh, wow. Like, why wouldn't the kid bond with Shannan? So it kind of put this perception out there that wasn't fair, in my opinion. And it wasn't, taken in full context, I don't think.
Oh, I'm sure it wasn't taken in full context.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
it's just something I've learned over the years, I guess. I always took everything at face value, and you can't online. You can't.
Nope.
And that is proof of it.
It was all lies, but it was the neighbor on his behavior who spotted that everything he was saying and doing was not accurate. And then he pulls the video up to show the police. And then you see Chris looking very awkward.
Oh, yeah, he was.
I don't believe planned the whole event in terms of killing Shannan. She confronted him. And I think she probably said to him, I'm leaving you and I'm taking the children. And it's at that
He said
point,
that, right? You'll never see she said something to the effect of, you'll never see the children again. Of course, if she thinks he's cheating on her and the marriage is falling apart and he's trying to leave her, that's the kind of thing a wife and mother might say.
Yeah, and a good father would say, well, look, we have to work this out, but I don't want to be with you anymore. And we have to work the children out of who, and when we get custody. But let's talk about that another time, but let's separate for now. But that's not what he did. He put his hands around her neck. He strangled her for a period of minutes to the point that she wasn't just unconscious, that she was dead and she was carrying his baby. And then he took the two girls and put them in the car, and he chose to kill them too. And he could have made very different choices. There were other choices on the table, but if I can't have you, no one will.
Is that psychopathy? Is it evil? Like, I don't understand. I even get, forgive me, I'm not justifying. I get killing the wife. I mean, like anybody who listens to Dateline knows that happens all the time. I don't understand what can then make you kill your 3-year-old and your 5-year-old in the manner that we've just been discussing? What is that?
Yes, well, only he and those men who do it know it. But I believe that for Chris Watts, it was about wiping them all out. And he believed that he had a chance of a new relationship with Nikki. And in his mind, although it makes no sense to anybody else, that's why he took the choices that he did. And of course, it's with catastrophic consequences. But this wasn't in red mist. This wasn't a moment where he makes a decision. It's over 45 minutes plus where he makes those choices and then he sticks to that story. And there were other choices that he could have made, but he didn't. And that tells me about him. That tells me about the type of person he really is. And I have scored him on the Psychopathy Checklist and he scores lower than 20, but I don't have all the information available. But what I did see was the lack of empathy. And that he was even flirting with one of the CBI officers who was interviewing him. And he was attempting to manipulate. And that's why he changed his story.
I don't know about the flirting. I don't know if I ever picked that up. Did you guys?
Flirting with Tammy.
Yeah, that's what she said, the flirting. I don't feel like he flirted. I think he was really trying to save his ass. But maybe he was trying to kind of schmooze her into thinking, you know, he's this perfect Chris like he's always been. But she wasn't snowed by it. But here is a little clip of Chris very uncomfortable in Nate's house that she was just talking about with the video. And then I don't know if everybody here has ever noticed what came on Nate's screen. So I wanted to show that because that was really creepy. So right now Nate is trying to pull up his videos, but pay attention to what comes up on his screen when Chris says she's pregnant.
He's like, I really don't want to be
Oh my God, he's freaking out.
Like he keeps trying to walk away.
Do you see how forward his neck is on the side? When you see someone with their shoulders back and their neck forward, that's a sign of deception.
Really?
Because they're protecting their jugular, the same as if they put their chin down a little bit.
I did not know that.
It was very severe on that. See,
ooh, let's watch it again.
See, his shoulders are hunched forward, and his neck is
turtling. You need to pull your head in.
Interesting. This is so awkward too, isn't it?
Yeah.
She dropped her off at 1 in the morning, right? She's done my doorbell said 1:48. She came in.
He just blinked about 50 times.
He couldn't get his body to be more concaved in that.
No, he is hunched over.
Yeah,
Isn't
he couldn't.
It's about to come up. Pay attention to the TV. Look at him. He's like, oh, fuck. Did I back up far enough?
Look at him moving.
Yeah, he's swaying side to side.
That was the start of the video.
Because now you can see exactly what you can see on his camera.
Look at his face.
Stop
Oh
moving.
my God.
And then he just crossed his arms right there.
Yeah.
I didn't pick her up going into the house, though.
I've seen that look on Brian's face when he got pulled over.
Yep.
So it doesn't show her walking into the house.
Shock and awe. I didn't pass it already, did I, Potato?
No.
It's right after this, I think.
She would have walked by right this on.
He looks like he's going to throw up.
Yep.
He's not even comprehending. He has no idea what this video might show.
People
you see him just look down at his hand?
Looked at his hand. Yeah.
I never noticed that before.
What did the guy say at that point?
I don't know what he said, but he looked down at his knuckles.
Mm-hmm.
She would have walked by when he saw him.
Oh, okay. He said we can't see her going in after Nikki dropped her off. He said, but if she would have walked by here, we would have seen her. So in other words, we know she went inside because she would have been picked up. Dude, he ain't wearing his wedding ring. That's what he looked down at.
They see all these people coming in. They're like, what's going on? Yeah.
He doesn't have his wedding ring on.
He probably hadn't been wearing it for 6 weeks. He probably hadn't even thought to put it back on yet.
I think it just dawned on him, didn't it?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, uh-oh, I don't have my wedding ring on.
Yeah, his mind is clearly racing at that point, and he's just suddenly realized that his ring isn't on, and that makes him look.
Yes.
Oh my God. The way the neighbor's just looking at him is like,
oh yeah, he knows.
Yep.
Wait till after he
was
leaves, when he like mimics how Chris was swaying. He's like, he's never like that, and then he sways back and forth. It's so crazy. Oh man.
I do that with the shopping cart sometimes at the store.
Not on purpose though, right? You're at Walmart and the wheels are off balance.
Like rocking back and forth. I'm like, there's not a baby in here. But I know that that's not why. I mean, that's like a maternal thing.
See what he was just doing then, like digging in his pockets and stuff. What was he looking for? I think he's
his ring.
Trying to distract himself from what's going on the screen.
No, I feel like he put his ring somewhere, and I think maybe he wanted to slip it on.
Look at his face there. Oh, you missed it.
Oh, his big eyes.
Oh, well, I was looking at his lips were totally soft.
Oh yeah, he does that.
I mean, you can't even see them.
Nope. He does that a lot.
That's like a kid that just got busted.
Yes. Yeah. I was gonna say my oldest son does that. He still does it, but he doesn't do it when he's like hiding something. He does it like if he's like worried. He sucks his lips.
Yep.
Well, I guess he is worried here, right?
Mm-hmm.
But this is at 148, and then the next one I have is 105, whatever. So nothing, no cars came through because I guarantee with the headlights, it picked up the headlights.
Oh yeah. And my goodness said that 527, my garage door was left open. But that could have been simple as well. It says it was shut during the day, but I think when Nikki's son, he may try to move the door around, maybe when they were trying to get in the garage door, and it probably broke the laser there. That's just my alarm started going off.
Well, I know he said the front door he tried going in, but he had the lock up.
That's for
So
the
that
kids,
set
so
it
they don't
off,
get out.
right?
And our remote on the outside doesn't work anymore. It got wet and it's a whole radio on the ground. Yeah, that was it.
So is
All
he
right, appreciate your time.
conflicting time, or is he arguing with? What is he even saying right there? Like, is he trying to say the time is off?
Oh no, he's saying that his garage door alerted on his phone that it was opened at 5:27, but he's saying it could have just been a sensor problem. Is what he's saying. But I did skip it, Potato.
Yeah, it must have been while he was looking through the videos. There it is. Go back. It was just on the screen. Keep going.
So,
Go
before
back.
you before you play this, Jay, what did you just say? You said it. How did you answer Mandy's question?
I'm sorry. What was the question again?
Oh, Mandy, what was the question again? Listen to all of us. Oh my good Lord.
I know. Welcome to Middle Age 101. The Middle Age podcast. Oh, there it is. Okay.
Yep.
Never mind. We'll hit it later.
Okay. Just watch this one clip.
Nothing for the rest of the day.
Oh, wait. He already said it. Watch.
It'll be code 4.
Yeah, we can pick up cars coming this way. I get anything coming this way and making this turn. So, and usually at night I pick up the cars pulling a U-turn. So, unless they pulled right here, but I would have caught her walking out.
He's not even listening.
That's me. I'm the nosy neighbor that would know exactly everything that would potentially be going on and not going on correctly.
Chris can't believe this is happening. I think that's where he is.
Nothing for the rest of the day.
This is crazy. All right.
She's pregnant as well.
Oh my God, is that freaky? He sees the embryo on the TV screen and then he turns and he says she's pregnant as well. He hasn't even mentioned up to this point yet.
So did that guy, did he say something? Because he puts the mic up to the remote up to his face. Did he say something to get that baby picture up there?
No, he's trying to get, okay, so back here, no, it was a total fluke thing. Like we all think it was Shannan.
I was just going to say
Where
that's.
did he come from?
Okay, so they're doing this. He's watching he's pulling up his surveillance on his Comcast, on his Xfinity. So at one point he's switching the scene. So he's like, oh, I've got the first one. Now he's going to put the second one on and his TV comes on and he's talking into it. It's like he's trying to get it to play his surveillance, but look what it puts on. Look at Chris's face.
For the rest of the day.
He looks over and he sees that. Look at this. And look at Nate's face. He's like, what?
Ooh, look at him. Look at Nate. Look at him down.
Mm-hmm. And then
wow, that's so.
Look what it turns into. You guys watch.
Yeah, the rest of it.
She's pregnant as well.
She's pregnant as well, and then look how it ends.
Stop it.
Yeah.
Swear. And look at Nate's face.
So eerie.
Look at his face. He's like, what the fuck is this doing?
It's
so now
crazy.
he's got
It happened to be that ad that came on at that specific moment.
He went to, what he did was he just accidentally went to live TV, and that was playing on National Geographic. It was like that little scene.
Talk
and
about
then
the perfect storm.
And then he turns around and he says, oh, she's pregnant as well. Weird.
Yep.
Okay, back to our potato. Sometimes I can't even tell if it's her or potato talking. You both have lovely
I don't mind that.
accents.
I like her voice.
You sound a
I
lot
love listening to her.
You remind me a lot of her, like her verbiage and stuff.
At the time, I believe that he was capable of getting away with it, and that's what he was trying to do.
Let's show the audience a clip of him. This was before he confessed, and he was still playing the game with the media of, I have no idea where they went. She took off with the children, in the middle of the night.
She vanished.
Chris Watts before his confession.
I hope that she's somewhere safe right now and with the kids. But I mean, could she just taken off? I don't know. But if somebody has her and they're not safe, like, I want them back now.
Way too much smiling there.
My God, that is so obviously untrue and not how a real grieving father and husband would act.
Right.
Not authentic at all. And that's where you would be pressing to get more answers from him. She's pregnant, 15 weeks pregnant, and with lupus, with his 2 daughters. And I do believe he felt he could control the narrative and that he could control other people and manipulate them. So the question is, did we ever really know, or, did anyone really know who Chris Watts was? Is this really who he is now? And this was him, and that's what he was masking, for many years. And he didn't let people in because of who he truly was. And that's what I believe. What we're seeing after the fact, that's him making those choices,
like Scott Peterson.
those decisions.
Don't you think it's like a Scott Peterson situation?
Yes, I do. And I've talked about Lacey and Connor Peterson. Again, she was pregnant, and the choices that he made, where there were other choices on the table, but they're the choices that he made. And that's why he's still in prison, and that's where he must remain.
Ooh, did you hear that? She was like, and he must remain there. She don't like Scott Peterson.
Yep.
You make of the fact that Chris Watts, when he did confess, he was forced to confess. Let's not kid ourselves. I mean, they had him. That the woman who ran the lie detector on him she was crazy good. I mean, she put him at ease. She was, oh, this is all just fun. You know the truth. One of us knows the truth, and now we're both about to know the truth. I thought she did a great job, and she did, along with her partner, extract the confession. But they had a lot of evidence. They had the GPS. They knew he had gone to the oil tanks. They had a lot. So he winds up confessing. They bring in his dad. He confesses to his dad. And in that moment, is one of the themes of our discussion has been the blaming of the woman. What did she do? What'd she do? In that moment, listen to what he said. I know you're familiar. I'll play it for the audience. Here's his confession.
You lost it and choke her or
You lost it and you choked her or what? Asked the dad. Rage.
The babies are gone. And I put my hands around my wife's neck and did that same thing.
So it's hard to understand there, but what he's saying is Shannan, killed my babies. So I put my hands around her neck and did the same thing to her. In that the moment of confession, he's blaming Shannan.
Which tells you everything you need to know about him. You know, it's very rare for a woman to behave in that way. And under these circumstances, it's highly unlikely. But he was happy for Shannan to take the blame for his actions and his behavior.
And later admitted that that wasn't true anyway. So, I mean, we know it was a lie. He's serving life sentences and will not be getting paroled.
We got through it, guys.
We did it. And you know, him saying, oh, I mean, she could have taken off with the kids. No, she wouldn't. It's like, it's a constant, that resentment towards her even shows over after she's gone. And, you know, like, he resents her so much. You know, she wouldn't have just taken off with the kids and not said anything.
Right.
But now he's playing her out to be some erratic, you know.
And you know what? Based on every video that we watched and how she like told him what to do and all that stuff, a lot of us interpreted that as he being a controlled man. And
that was his narrative.
I look back in hindsight and I feel duped by Chris Watts.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, say what you want about the, you know, the justice system and, you know, how his plea deal went down and how they wouldn't, you know, let him talk to his parents and all of that aside, the act itself is really what I'm looking at, you know.
I don't know any of that other information. All that information you just said, that's not something I know about.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that go along with this case that, you know, came out along the way. But I mean, to say that women don't kill their kids is, I mean, they do.
Yeah. And she was pregnant. So let's be realistic about this. Okay. He had the narrative on his side. And this is again, why I'm keep going with this narcissistic, or borderline personality disorder, because he was good with the narrative the way it was, I believe, but he was in control of it in his mind. And so when things change, she's pregnant. It could be postpartum. I mean, like, he could have spun it that way. Oh, she went, you know, it was hormones and she killed them. And I really think he thought he'd get away with it.
Yeah. Used like the typical like crazy woman thing.
Mm-hmm. And because he had played so well into all the other things, people, the perception was, oh, he's a good dad. He's a good husband. He's
faked it his whole life, right? Like he's gotten good at it. It's like second nature, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Lisa Wilson, we have a conflicting comment. Lisa says, "Are you kidding? There was at least 4 other people at Survey that morning, plus the truck driver to haul the water. The oil well was productive."
Yeah. So I think that this is an example of how things on social media and stuff can cause you to form
Get out of hand.
Other opinions about what had happened. And at the end of the day, it's just an opinion because there's no proof that anybody else was involved.
And that's kind of the point that I mean, I think that we're saying is that, you know, the best thing could happen would be that Chris would come clean, give his parents some peace, give the rest of, you know, give them the peace that they are so seeking. And
I guess what's disturbing to me, Mary, is that he's had 5 years now behind bars. to kind of think about that and reflect, you know, on the effects his actions have had on others, especially those that are his biggest supporters. And the fact that he hasn't says a lot to me too. And that has made me kind of rethink what I thought about him as a person, because I don't know his mom, and I've spoken to her on the phone a few times. And if I can hear her pain, if I can hear that and he can't, there's definitely something wrong.
Yeah.
Even if she doesn't voice, you know, how she feels, just hearing her, you know, they talk about the girls. He talks about the girls and talks about memories of them. Like, that's what's so bizarre to me. Like, he'll just reminisce with them. How do you do that?
Because it makes past life. Like, it doesn't make him feel sad because that was his life before. This is his life now. He can't relate to it in the same way.
I mean, when asked, like, by the investigators when they went back, what do you miss about Shannan? What did he say? Her cooking.
He missed her cooking.
Her cooking.
That was his answer?
Yes. Her fucking spaghetti. And then Tammy went, you know, kind of like led him on with that and said, oh yeah, she's Italian, right? And then he went on and on about the cooking.
Yeah.
And that says so much to me.
Well, and so if you think about it as, if you consider your perspective as I need to survive in this world, and you use the people around you to survive. Not that you think you're necessarily using them, but that is what you're doing. And it fits.
Yeah. Yep.
But there is a world where, you know, someone talks to Chris. He has some kind of experience with a chaplain or something, or a therapist or whatnot, and they bring his attention to it. And there is a world where he would come clean and be like, holy cow, I didn't know I was causing my mom so much pain.
Right. That's what I'm saying. It's really unfortunate that there's no one to kind of, you know, help after the fact in situations like this, to kind of bring it all together and like let the families on the outside have some closure if they need it, and move on. You know, they can still, you know, have whatever relationship exists after that, but to at least have some closure. I mean, I really think that they need that. It's heartbreaking because so many innocent people are hurt, you know, and not to, you know, ignore Shannan's family's pain. I mean, that is, without saying, unimaginable. Unimaginable. But I will say that they have done an amazing job memorializing them. Their gravesite is absolutely beautiful, and they keep it up so nice. I mean,
yeah,
it's so sad. It really is.
I hope people stop feeling like they have to put on a show. And I don't mean that to be disrespectful of anyone. I just, you know, I think we do such a disservice to humanity trying to just always show our best selves. And I think we could just do so much better and all be so much more happy and more in communion with each other and understanding each other if we would just be human. And that's okay.
Put so much energy into being fake that I don't think a lot of people realize that it takes less energy to just be real, you know, just be honest. Like, if you don't know something, who cares if you, like, some people just can never be wrong. That's like one of my pet peeves. Like, I can't stand people who are never wrong, because everybody's wrong, and people who can't admit they're wrong, it drives me nuts, because you can't possibly fucking know everything. And like, no one expects you to.
Well, that's the crazy thing, to think someone expects you to know everything.
Right. I mean, that's,
I'm wrong. And, oh, I'm bad. No, I'm wrong.
That's like the dumbest thing ever. Like, that's dumber than anything else. And it's like, why are people so afraid to admit that they may have gotten something wrong or they may have been wrong. Like,
and why would you want to surround yourself? I don't know if you just said that, Mary, but someone who thinks you're right all the time, how boring would that be?
Dude, there's nothing more annoying
like,
to me.
Real lonely up there on the top of the mountain when you're always right. I mean,
yeah, and it's really gets old. Well, I think some people really like people, you know, telling them how smart they are and how much they know and stuff like that. But to me, I don't like people to always agree with me. Like, especially like when we do things like this, like obviously we're all on the same page about this, but you know, if we have discussions about other things, I don't want you to agree with me just because I say something. Like, if you don't agree with me, say you don't agree with me. But I don't respect people who sit there and go, "Oh, I know. Oh, yeah." It's like, no, you don't, because I know you have your own thought, but you don't want to say it to me. You know, so I really respect people that admit they're wrong and are not afraid to like say what they think, even if it goes against the grain or, you know, whatever. So.
Yeah, and I think it's the problem that we face is everybody wants to debate or have constructive conversation, but it's the approach, which is everything. Like, I could be totally wrong, and I could say, listen, you are so incorrect because da 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 da. Well, I would check out. I'm not going to listen to someone else's viewpoint if your method of displaying that to me is aggressive, you know, and that's just me. Like, I'll just shut down.
Yeah.
I love to hear other viewpoints.
Well, and you have to be mature enough to like hear people out. And, you know, I'm not any smarter than you. So some thought that you have may, you know, put a puzzle piece together for me over here, you know?
Yep.
And that's why it's just so important to be open-minded and just, I don't know. So I guess that's my way of saying I really, really enjoyed your guys' conversation tonight. And I want to thank you for taking the time. I know I said it was going to be an hour and it went 3. So
I know I feel like it though.
I know I took you away from your families, and I didn't mean to do that for so long, but it really was really refreshing to have you guys on panel. So I really do appreciate it. It was a great convo. And I did put up, I want to say Bitch Franklin. I want to comment on that real quick. She or he said, and Munchausen by proxy is real and obvious here. And, you know, there might be some other things that were going on. I don't know whether there were or not. All we can see is posts on social media. But whether they were or weren't, I don't think it has anything to do with the murders. So like if there was like something weird going on where like somebody was like obsessive with something, like that's something they should have dealt with internally with each other. And that has nothing to do with the end result of what we're looking at on the screen right now. Like we're looking at literally their grave. And like, to me, Munchausen's like has nothing to do with this.
No. You think that's referring to the girl's allergies and all that stuff?
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot, it goes pretty deep. You know, there was a lot of social media posts about health issues, and there's conflicting stories from family members. So it's a lot of, you know, he said, she said, and you got to meet somewhere in the middle, I guess.
Well, and in Shannan's defense, she was diagnosed with lupus and an autoimmune disease. I mean, we have learned, as someone with one, we have learned so much about that in the past 5 to 10 years. So, I mean,
I'm just not sure that I'm sold on the Thrive curing lupus. So I'm still on the fence.
Oh, did she say it cured lupus?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, she couldn't say lupus. She said her health. How'd she have to say it, Potato?
Health challenges.
Challenges, right. Because the company, you know, legalities, you couldn't say lupus. You couldn't say whatever ailment. You could just say your health challenges. So she said that, you know, she had these health challenges and everybody knew it was lupus. And that was when she went on to describe her diagnosis. She was feeling like crap. I mean, honestly, her description of how she was feeling sounded to me like textbook depression. But at any rate, I'm not saying she didn't have it. I'm not saying she did. I don't know. That's her business. That's her private records, you know, but it's a very hard thing to diagnose. And that's where I have a problem, because I've seen a lot of people use, and I'm not saying she did, but I've seen a lot of people use these things that can't be easily diagnosed as a crutch. But I'm not saying she did that. I think if anything, maybe it was used as a selling tactic. Again, I don't know. So that's my thoughts. I mean, I've seen people, I don't know people personally who have been in MLMs, who have been under pressure to keep up with a certain sales quota to keep their vehicle, right? Like they're going to take your vehicle if you don't make your quota every month. I worked in sales. I had quotas. I just didn't get a bonus if I didn't make my quota. I didn't have to worry about it that much. If I made it and I got a bonus, great, but for her, it was keep your vehicle or not. And Chris is going to notice if that vehicle's gone, right? Because he didn't know really what was going on, how successful this thing was. So if that car's gone, that's it. So
yeah, that's a huge thing. They got a young family as well, so they rely on that vehicle too.
Right. And desperate times call for desperate measures. So you might make up a story. I mean, I've seen people do it on YouTube. Oh my God, my views are down. Oh my God, I'm losing subs. Oh my God, I got to make a clickbait video. I've seen it.
It's so disgusting. It's just so disgusting.
It is. But when you're wrapped up in this online world, it's easy to get wrapped up in the online world because you're putting on this fake face, and you kind of can maybe take it too far if you get into a mode where you're like, okay, I'm looking at my numbers and they ain't looking good, and I'm in mid-month. So I've really got to pump it up. So you do. I mean, you got to be strategic. And I'm not saying she's a liar, and I'm not saying she's doing that, but I don't know. So there's just so many variables of what it could be.
Right.
Is all I'm saying.
Well, we don't know how you got, or she got, or they got into that situation. And I think that's important to keep in mind, that as human beings, we make decisions, hopefully, given the best information we have at the time we have it. And if we get into a place like you're saying where we're desperate, then if you're willing, if it's zero-sum game, then you make bad decisions, and maybe your intention was good, but now you're down a hole. And as I tell my kids, as soon as you get in the hole, the only thing you can do is come clean, because otherwise you're just going to dig a bigger hole.
Yes. And that's what I'm saying. Most people will get pushed to a certain point where they do end up confessing. But look at him in the interrogation room. He was like, okay, well, yeah, I did do that. I did kill her, but that's all I did. It was still this reluctance to come clean.
But look how he just kind of transformed into an infant. Like he just, once his dad was in there, his body language and everything. Hey, your dogs are scaring my cats.
Sorry.
It's just like he became, a child again. I don't know. It was weird. Real quick, is Thrive that Shannan did the same as Thrive, the makeup that is advertised every time you get on Amazon?
I don't know anything about makeup. I don't think so. The company is called Lavelle. That's the company that owns Thrive. It's called Lavelle, Level, if you want to look it up.
Gotcha.
Yeah, Mandy, I would love for you to look up some Thrive videos on YouTube and do a little watch party in Discord. I think you'd love the conference videos from Thrive.
Oh my God.
If you're saying I love them, it sounds like this might be
sounds a little sarcastic, maybe. All right, you guys.
Joining a sorority.
Oh God, let's not get on that topic. Hey, save that for tomorrow.
Thank you for having us, Jay, by the way.
Yeah,
I so appreciate what you said about taking the different, information and all learning. And I hope that social media as a whole is kind of hopefully evolving to be a better tool for humanity than it has
Me
been.
too. And I just think the more that we're aware of it, and we're aware of how things on social media can change our viewpoints and kind of grasp it and get a little bit more control over it before it gets out of control and we're in that hole, I think is what we're going to have to do, because we have no other way to get a grasp on these things. If we let it get out of control, it can. So I think the more we're aware of it, the better off we are.
I agree.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, thank you, ladies. You guys are so smart.
Well, thank you. It was lovely.
Such a smart panel. I don't even know what I'm going to do with myself. I'm going to walk away and I'm going to be like, oh my God, I'm mind blown from all the intelligence on one panel.
We'll have to get the assignments rolling.
Get on that Lavelle thing. Is that what it's called, Lavelle?
Level. All right. Have a good night, guys.
Bye.
Good night.
I don't give a damn. I don't really care about you and your problems. I don't give a damn. You talk way too much. I have heard enough about you and your problems. I don't give a damn. I don't give a damn. Feel something real, but I'm feeling differently. You're making plans